Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had the power of flames part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story, My Hero Academia fan 132 from Wattpad. So let's start the video. Izuku was a kid who always had the heart of a hero, so it would make sense that he really wanted to become one. Ever since Izuku was 4 and learned he was able to use a quirk called pyrokinectic, he tried to protect all the little kids around him who got bullied. However, Izuku could still not believe that the person who did the bullying and attacking would actually be his friend Bakugo. Izuku and the others were now 7 as they were still in the same class. Bakugo, however, was on his way to bully again. Izuku saw a small girl against a tree while Bakugo and his lackeys were walking towards her as Izuku saw small explosions coming from Bakugo's hand. Izuku quickly touched the ground with his hand and created a wall of fire in front of the girl, just high enough to cover her entire body from the explosions. Izuku then quickly ran towards them as he quickly stood in front of the wall of flames, which he then lowered. Bakugo, stop bullying and attacking people, Izuku said, determined. Who do you think you are, you demon nerd? Bakugo hissed, irritated. I'm someone who won't stand for people bullying others just because they think they're better than them, Izuku said as his eyes started to glow. The girl behind him felt warm and was amazed by how Izuku stood up for her. You know, if you weren't such a bully, you would be pretty incredible with your quirk, Izuku stated. Sadly, that big butt ego of yours got in the way, he added, which made the girl laugh. That does it, I'm gonna kill you, you little... Bakugo hissed as explosions formed on his hand while flames swirled around Izuku. Nejire, they all heard as they then turned to see who it was. Bakugo saw her parents running up. 𝗕𝗬𝗁, you two got lucky today, Bakugo said as he walked away. Izuku then turned around towards the girl as he then looked at her with a soft smile. Are you alright? Izuku asked as he helped her up. I am, thanks to you. Thanks for standing up for me, she said as her parents arrived. Nejire, are you alright? The man asked. Yes, Dad, thanks to him, she said, pointing towards Izuku, who just smiled at the concerned parents and Nejire. Why did they come for you anyway? Izuku asked. I mean, it's not because of how you look really beautiful and cute, so that can't be it, Izuku said innocently as she blushed madly while her mother laughed at seeing that. I got bullied because of my quirk, she said, blushing. Your quirk? Izuku asked. Yes, my quirk lets me use my energy, but that also means I run out of energy really fast. I was actually training and did my last shot when I fell to my knees. That guy saw that and made fun of me. Then when I tried defending myself, he wanted to come at me, but then you saved me with your quirk, she stated while looking with wide eyes at him. I see. Well, ever since he got that quirk, Bakugo has really been a bully. He feels like he is above the others. He thinks all the best hero needs is power and power alone, but he's sorely mistaken, Izuku stated, a bit pissed. Anyway, we want to thank you for protecting Nejire, the man said, giving Izuku a hand. No problem, I'm just glad I noticed it in time, Izuku smiled. Could you? Nejire started taking his attention. Could you show me your quirk again? Nejire said. Izuku just smiled at her. Sure, he said as his eyes started glowing as he then held his hand up as a flame came from it. Wow, that's such a pretty flame, Nejire said as her mother agreed to that. I can also do this, Izuku said as a small circle of fire appeared around Nejire and her parents as they then suddenly felt warm. May I ask, how old are you? The man asked. Me. I'm only 7, Izuku said with a smile. Wait, so you're just as old as me but with so much control over your quirk? Nejire asked, amazed. Izuku just smiled. Suddenly an explosion flew towards them. Izuku noticed this just in time as he turned around and countered it with intense flames. What do you think you're doing? Izuku asked in a serious tone. Izuku saw Bakugo from a distance as he then ran away. Izuku used the flames under his feet, starting to fly up as he wanted to chase him, but the father from Nejire stopped him. It's alright, you stopped his attack, that's enough, the man smiled. Izuku then stopped his flames and landed while calming down. Darling, we really have to go, Nejire's mother said to her father. I know, boy, what's your name? The man asked. My name is 𝗧𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲, he said with a happy smile. Well Izuku, I want to thank you again for saving Nejire, but sadly we have to go, the man said as he, his wife and Nejire looked sad. Why the sad faces? Izuku asked curious. Well, we're just glad Nejire met such a nice person, but sadly it's just at the day that we're moving away to another city, the mother said as Nejire nodded. Tell me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Izuku asked looking at Nejire, who then looked up surprised as she then started thinking. Well, I actually want to master this quirk and become a great hero someday, Nejire stated. And do you have a school in mind? Izuku then asked. I really want to go to UA, I heard some of the greatest heroes studied there, and since I aim to become a great hero myself, that would probably be my best chance, Nejire stated excited. Then let's meet up at UA, Izuku said with a smile as they all were surprised by that. I aim to become the #1 hero and I already wanted to aim for UA anyway, now I just have more reason to get into UA, Izuku said with a bright smile. Alright. Nejire smiled as she then hugged Izuku. It's a promise then, she stated before walking away with her parents while having a bright smile on her face. They all waved at each other before Nejire and her parents then got out of sight. Time skip, 9 years later. Izuku was now 16 and had just received his letter that he was accepted to UA. He also learned that he would be living in dorms while studying there. Izuku packed his stuff and got ready to go to bed as he would be going to UA the next day. The next day, Izuku got up early as he was excited to go to UA. After a while he left for UA until he arrived at the big entrance. I wonder if she will be here Oswell, Izuku thought as he then walked in. I wonder if that bully Bakugo will be here Oswell. Ever since I protected that girl I haven't seen him even once, however I did see him when I glanced around by the entrance exam. Knowing him he's definitely here, Izuku thought as he searched for his classroom. Once he got inside, most students were already there. Izuku walked in as he and the others already did a round of introduction until the door slammed open. In the opening stood the bully Bakugo. And there he is, he just had to be in the same class as me, Izuku thought while trying to ignore him. Bakugo walked towards Izuku and wanted to say something but was stopped by the teacher who walked in. Alright, class is starting, the teacher said as everyone sat down. I'm Aizawa and I'll be your homeroom teacher starting today. Now take these and meet me outside, Aizawa said as he handed everyone a gym uniform. They all got outside as Aizawa was already waiting. Alright, I'll be judging your capabilities. I want to see just how good you can control your quirk and see if you got any potential, Aizawa stated as he then held a ball in his hand. Bakugo, come here, Aizawa said as Bakugo walked up. How far could you throw in junior high? He then asked. Around 70 meters, Bakugo stated. Good, now throw it again, but this time use your quirk, he stated. Bakugo grinned, grabbed the ball and got ready. Die, he shouted as he made an explosion behind the ball. Aizawa then grabbed some sort of watch as it showed the distance. 705 meters it said. I will be keeping records of all your scores, that way I can see just how good you can handle your quirk, Aizawa stated. That's actually pretty fun, Mina said. Fun you say? We didn't come here to have fun. Fine, then we'll make it like this. I want everyone to take this seriously, and the last person will be expelled, Aizawa said as half of the class gasped. They started a sprinting test. Izuku got first place in it with his flames. The throwing test he got second place just behind Uraraka who had infinite. At the grip test he was number 3, long jump he got first place. Then the side steps were the last to do. Izuku was doing pretty well so far in all of the earlier tests. They all got ready to jump when suddenly Mineta just placed 2 balls on each of his sides. The tests started and everyone's side jumped as fast as they could but were no match for Mineta who bounced between his bouncy ball. Alright, those were all the tests, Aizawa said. 𝗕𝗁, that little diaper boy only won that because of his stupid quirk. He didn't do a thing, Bakugo hissed. You're just jealous cause you got beaten by this diaper boy. Mineta laughed as Bakugo gritted his teeth and threw an explosion which was blocked by Izuku's flames. Bakugo gritted his teeth again as he redirected his anger towards Izuku. Alright, here are the results, Aizawa said as Izuku was on top followed by Todoroki and Bakugo. Izuku? Todoroki suddenly said, yes. Izuku asked turning around to him with a curious look. I won't lose to you, I will become the greatest hero, Todoroki said determined. Good luck, but I won't give in so easily, Izuku stated with a smile as everyone smiled by this friendly challenge. You little SHTs can't do a thing, you're all just a bunch of extras, Bakugo hissed. And you'll never become a proper hero, Izuku just blurted out. What did you just say to me? Bakugo said as he grabbed Izuku's shirt. You heard me, you got destructive power and control, sure, but that's all you got, everyone can have that, but the biggest obstacle you face to become a hero is your ego, Izuku stated. The class all looked surprised towards those two as Aizawa just grinned. Izuku is right though, Azui just blurted out. 𝗓𝗵𝗲, Bakugo said pissed off as he walked towards her. I see you're still like that, Izuku said as he raised another wall of flames to keep him away from Bakugo. How many times are you going to get in my way and piss me off, Bakugo said pissed off. As much as it takes until you learn that you'll never be a hero when you bully people like that, Izuku stated as Bakugo charged at him angrily. Aizawa wanted to use his quirk and catch Bakugo. Aizawa sir, I'll handle him, he's been like this since we were little, I think it's time I'll show him just how weak he really is, Izuku said while his eyes started glowing as he was pissed off too. Well, let's make it a three-way battle then, that way we'll even find out who the strongest is between the three of us, Todoroki stated. Fine with me, Izuku stated. I'll kill the both of you, Bakugo shouted. Izuku then walked towards the middle of the field. Where are you going, nerd? You scared? Bakugo provoked. No, just moving away from the school so I won't damage the building, Izuku stated as Todoroki then also walked towards the middle. Aizawa and the other class members stayed in place as they were watching. Suddenly the principal appeared on Aizawa's shoulder. What's going on here? The principal asked. Hello Nizu sir, Bakugo threw a fit here and tried to attack multiple students of mine. Izuku said he'd take care of him, he already gave him a good lecture about being a hero. Todoroki joined in to see who the strongest of them is, Aizawa stated. And you are all right with this? Nizu asked. Izuku seems like a smart kid with a lot of control over his quirk, he has a good grasp of it and knows what a hero needs to be a hero. Todoroki is strong but is too obsessed with becoming the #1 hero. Bakugo however thinks you only need destructive power to become the top hero. This might actually be a good opportunity. Now we can see how well they control their quirks and think Todoroki and Bakugo can learn quite a lot from Izuku, Aizawa stated as Bakugo then charged at Izuku. However, Izuku just pushed him away with his flames. Todoroki then shot a glacier towards Izuku from the back, but Izuku just slapped his hand back above his shoulder as all the ice just got destroyed, leaving Todoroki shocked. Bakugo then charged at Izuku again as he got hit by an ice attack from Todoroki. Don't forget this is a battle with the three of us, he said. Shut up you DMN extra. Bakugo shouted. You have been getting in my way ever since we were kids. Bakugo shouted towards Izuku. That's because I use my power to keep people safe, and not to gain power over them. I don't see people as less than myself just because their quirk might not be as strong as mine, Izuku stated. Every quirk has its use, not everyone's quirk is good for combat. Some are mostly used for rescuing, others can save lives, but all you can think of is your own strength. You don't care about others, you only want power and you think you're above everyone just because of your quirk. That's what makes you weak, he added. A real hero doesn't use his power to gain control over people, a real hero uses his power to protect others, to save those in need, and rescue people. If you can't even understand that, then you'll never become a hero, Izuku finished as flames swirled around his legs. Izuku then held out his hand as flames shot out of it flying towards Bakugo, sending him flying. Todoroki used his ice again on Izuku, but this got melted away instantly by Izuku's heat. So my ice won't work on you, huh? Todoroki stated. I can melt ice easily with my flames and control fire with my own fire, so we're not really a good matchup to fight against each other, Izuku said as he awkwardly scratched his head. Bakugo then shot at Izuku again with explosions. Seems he's too full of rage right now, Izuku stated, closing his eyes. Suddenly a tornado of fire shot up from the ground as it engulfed Bakugo. Blasts of fire shot through the tornado, hitting Bakugo from multiple sides. After a minute the tornado disappears and Bakugo fell to the ground. How did you get so strong, you demon nerd? Bakugo gritted his teeth. Because I want to protect people with my power, I don't fight for myself. Just like back then, I use my power to protect people and not to dominate them, Izuku stated. You know, you can become a hero too, Izuku suddenly said. Sure, first you're going on about how I'm not fit to be a hero, and now you're saying I can become a hero. What a joke, Bakugo said. It's true you can't become a hero right now, not the way you are now, but you can use your power to protect the people instead trying to gain power over them. A hero needs strength to fend a villain, sure, but the people also have to feel safe around that hero, and a hero needs to be able to save people. I know you can do that too, because I know how you were before you got your quirk. Just like me, you wanted to surpass all might in all ways possible, but you got like this ever since you got your quirk, Izuku stated. You can still be a hero, just use your power for the good, and not to bully others or to dominate them, Izuku said as he stood up and walked. But Izuku, he suddenly said as Izuku stopped. I'll try, he stated as Izuku then smiled and walked away. Aizawa nodded with a grin towards Izuku. Thanks, Aizawa stated as Izuku nodded with a smile. After that, classes went on easily, and they were then introduced to the dorm system. Everyone got the layout from the dorm as well as where their rooms would be, and for the entire time Bakugo was surprisingly silent. Eventually everyone went to their own room to organize their stuff and make their rooms comfortable. When everyone was ready, they ordered food and they all got pizza. So Izuku, is it true that in theory Todoroki can't beat you? Azui asked bluntly. Well, in theory, yes, that would be true, but I know Todoroki will be smart enough to change that, Izuku smiled. He'll just have to master using both sides at once, he added as he looked towards Todoroki with a smile. Not happening, he said as he heard Izuku. I'm not going to use my old man's quirk, he stated. Who said anything about your old man's quirk? I said if you master both sides, you were born with that quirk, right? So it's really only your power, only you can decide what you use it for and when you'll use it or not, Izuku laughed. Todoroki then started to think. Still, you have amazing control of your quirk, and your speed is insane, Oswell, Ida said. You're even faster than me, and speed is all I got, Ida stated. Izuku began blushing, formed the compliment. Suddenly Aizawa walked in. Listen up, I know it's sudden and all that, but in a few days we'll be holding the sports festival, Aizawa stated. What? Half of the students shouted. I see, you do that so everyone has a fair shot, everyone will be competing with each other, even we as students, and now at the start of the year, everyone has a fair shot since no one really knows much about the others, their quirk and how they use them, Ida stated. That's right, so I want you guys to be at your best and show everyone what you're made of. This way I can see how you'll handle your quirks even more, Aizawa stated before walking off. The sports festival, huh? There were only a few days until the sports festival, and everyone was training hard as well as doing their best at school. Izuku had already found a quiet place to train where usually no one would be. Izuku already had an amazing control over his quirk, but he still tried to improve it every day, as well as increase his power and speed. However, when he came closer to his sport, he noticed small explosions as if someone was training there. Then he heard someone yell towards someone. The only thing Izuku heard was, "It's almost time," so he just walked a bit slower so the person could finish his training in peace. After a while Izuku got to his training spot but then saw someone flying off as well as two others just casually walk off. Oh, hello there, the blonde with the cowlick and cartoonish face said. Hello, Izuku answered. You came to train here? The blonde asked. Yes, it's a great spot here to train. Normally there is no one here though, so sorry if I interrupted something, Izuku answered. It's alright, we had to go anyways. Also, do you happen to be one of the first years? The blonde asked. I am. I'm Izuku Midoriya, Izuku said smiling while holding out his hand. Mirio Togata, and this right here is Tamaki Amajiki. Usually there is someone else too, but she flew off already. She was already late for her meeting, Mirio said smiling with a frown. Well, go train, Izuku. I'll root for you at the sports festival, Mirio said as he and Tamaki walked off. Thanks, Mirio, Izuku answered as he went to train. Izuku then concentrated his flames and started his training. Mirio and Tamaki already made quiet a distance but still heard the explosions from Izuku's training as well as feel the intensity of his quirk from there. Well, that kid sure has some power, Mirio stated before walking off. Days passed quickly as it was finally time for the sports festival. Izuku looked around and saw a lot of pros standing around as guards so nothing would happen at the festival. Now keep in mind, this will be broadcasted and a lot of heroes will be watching. This might also help for your future. Some heroes might gain an interest in you which might help once you can work for agencies. Aizawa stated before they all went towards the field in their gym uniforms. And here are all the participants. They suddenly heard as they walked through the hall towards the field. Once they walked through they saw Midnight shouting from a stance as the crowd began cheering for all the participants that walked in. Alright ladies and gentlemen, this year the sports festival will have only 2 events. First we'll hold a race. The second event will be battles 1 versus 1 tournament style. Midnight explained as the crowd began cheering again. Now all participants, walk towards the giant door to start the race. Midnight said as everyone walked towards the door. When everyone got ready there was a loud countdown. Once it reached 0 the door shot open and everyone ran outside, although they were stopped by Todoroki's ice. Izuku closed his eyes to now reveal his quirk to others as suddenly his body began steaming. Izuku then opened his eyes as he started running. Izuku was still dead last and didn't get hit by the ice, so he quickly jumped over all contestants and joined the top runners in the blink of an eye. Incredible! Izuku, who was dead last, avoided all the ice and got together with the 6 front runners that got past. Mike suddenly shouted, "Now who will become number 1? And how will they pass the obstacles?" Mike then shouted, "Obstacles." Izuku thought as suddenly the robots from the entrance exam showed up. Those things. Easy work now that I can just avoid them, Izuku thought as he then passed some frontrunners and passed the robots at incredible speed. Todoroki used his ice to freeze them while Bakugo then blew them up, however them making those moves slowed them down a little, giving Izuku the lead. And there it is, people. Izuku immediately took the lead while being followed by Todoroki and Bakugo. Kirishima, Azui, Momo, Uraraka and Ida are close by Oswell. Who is going to win this? Mike shouted again as they then heard the crowd cheering. The next obstacle was getting past a giant hole, as the only way over it was by walking over ropes. Izuku just ran faster before reaching the ropes as he then jumped and made it almost past the ropes in just 1 jump. Izuku ran the last part while Bakugo just flew over it with his explosions. Todoroki covered the rope with ice to make himself a bit of a foothold. Uraraka, Momo and Azui ran over the same rope as Ida used his engines to ride over the ropes. Ida has taken temporarily 3rd place. Izuku almost jumped over that insane big hole with just 1 jump. What an insane kid we have this year. Mike shouted as the crowd cheered again. Lastly they reached the minefield. Bakugo just flew over it with his explosions. Izuku however noticed small changes in the floor where the landmines were and was running through it at high speed. Ida stopped as he sweated and didn't know what to do. Todoroki just ran through it as he just made a field of ice. The others just followed him as they already knew there was no way to win from Izuku and Bakugo in the far front. Izuku entered first, Bakugo second, Todoroki third, followed by Ida, Azui, Kirishima, Uraraka and Momo in that order. And we've got our 8 finalists for the battle. Midnight suddenly shouted as the crowd cheered. While all the others managed to get through and everyone was allowed to take a break. Meanwhile at UA. "Hey Tamaki, wasn't that the boy we saw the other day?" Mirio asked. "It sure was, but his quirk was a bit weird. He only had steam coming from him," Tamaki stated. "Well yeah, it looked like it was an enhancing quirk which allowed him to speed up," Mirio stated with a smile. "Wait, what do you mean the other day?" "I was there with you guys but I didn't see anyone," a girl suddenly said. "Oh right, after you left someone came there to train Oswell. He was really nice and held a lot of power. We could hear the explosions from his moves as well as feel the intensity from his moves while we made quiet a distance already," Mirio explained. "So you think he was holding back just now?" the girl asked. "Well, if what we felt yesterday was really his power, then I'm sure he was holding back," Mirio stated. "Wow," the girl said. "I wonder, what's his quirk called? What does it feel like to use it? Is he strong? What will he do next? Would he show me if I asked him? Will he win?" The girl thought as then Midnight got back on the field. Our first contestants are Izuku versus Kirishima. Midnight stated, "It really is him." Mirio said excited, "I can't wait to see the power he used back then." Mirio added, "Izuku. That name sounds familiar," the girl thought. Back at the sports festival, "Well, Kirishima, you ready?" Izuku asked. "Not really," Kirishima stated nervously. "Man, I'm bummed out that I have to face you right at the start while seeing how you dealt with Bakugo and Todoroki the other day, but let's have a manly battle," Kirishima said as he hardened his body. "By the way, what was that thing you did in the race?" Kirishima asked. "It's part of my quirk. I was trying to hide what my quirk actually is, but since I'm facing only Class 1A, there is no point in holding back anymore or trying to hide it," Izuku smiled. "As for what that technique was, I used my flames inside my body. That way I can boost my speed and power without showing my flames. I guess most people think I have an enhancement type quirk now," Izuku smiled. "You are one smart creepy man, you know that?" Kirishima asked with a smile as he was sweating. "I'll take that as a compliment," Izuku smiled back. "Battle begin." Midnight then shouted. Izuku closed his eyes. "I'm sorry, Kirishima, but I don't think this battle will last long. No offense," Izuku said as he opened his eyes, which were now glowing as flames swirled around his feet while his hands were covered in fire. Kirishima started to sweat even more as he hardened his body as much as he could while taking a defensive stance. Izuku then launched himself at Kirishima with his flames while shooting strong flames from up close towards Kirishima, which created a giant explosion which also created a smokescreen. The crowd got silent from that move as the smokescreen slowly cleared away. Once it was completely gone, Izuku was still at the spot he was at when he fired the move. However, Kirishima wasn't there anymore. He got stuck in a wall as he was launched from the stage. "Winner is Izuku," Midnight shouted as the crowd began cheering. "At you, wow," was all the three could bring out. "I never thought he would be using flames. He tricked everyone in thinking he had an enhancement quirk for his body." Mirio said, "That certainly was impressive," Tamaki said. "I feel like I know him from somewhere," the girl thought. Back to the festival, Izuku beat Kirishima, Todoroki beat Momo, Uraraka beat Azui, Bakugo beat Ida. Next two matches were Izuku versus Todoroki, Bakugo versus Uraraka. Izuku got onto the field as Todoroki walked up on the opposing side. "This won't be like the other day," Todoroki stated. "Well, let's hope so, because you didn't really stand a chance," Izuku stated a bit awkwardly. "Battle start." Midnight shouted as Todoroki froze the entire field with ice, making spikes all over. Izuku melted the ice around him as to make a platform where he could stand as his eyes kept glowing. Suddenly icicle shards were sent flying towards Izuku from multiple sides as Izuku just rose a flame wall around him to block himself from the ice. Right as he lowered it, flames shot past his face. "Not bad using flames right as I drop mine, while dropping my own fire. It's hard to notice another fire," Izuku stated with a smile. "But that's not enough to beat me," Izuku smiled. Suddenly Todoroki shot his flames at Izuku, but Izuku just held his arm up as he spread the flames around the field, breaking the field of ice. Todoroki shot a glacier towards Izuku, but this completely melted away by Izuku's flames. However, Todoroki had sent flames directly after his ice, knowing Izuku would melt the ice. Izuku got hit by the flames and was sent back a few steps. "Not bad, you actually reached me with your flames, but it lacked the power to make a finishing blow," Izuku stated. "But I guess I should use more power if I want to beat you fast before you turn the tables on me," Izuku stated, taking a stance as flames formed on his hands and feet. Izuku got ready, but Todoroki quickly shot streaks of ice and fire as a barrage towards Izuku. However, just as it was about to reach Izuku, disappeared and appeared behind him. Todoroki turned around to face Izuku but was then sent flying by an incredibly strong fire attack as he was launched off the field. "The winner is Izuku," Midnight shouted as everyone cheered. Izuku walked towards Todoroki. "I'm sorry I had to be a bit rough with you. You gained a lot of control over both your ice and fire those past days. You were about to turn the tables on me," Izuku smiled while scratching his head. "No problem, it was a fight after all, but man, you're strong," Todoroki said as he smiled at Izuku. Izuku helped Todoroki up as they then both walked back as then Bakugo and Uraraka got up the field. The battle started with 𝗬𝗏𝗏 rushing towards 𝗵𝗃𝗀 while making herself weightless, making her faster. However, 𝗵𝗃𝗀 kept close notice of her as he blasted her away when she got too close. Eventually, she almost touched him as she took him off guard, but 𝗵𝗃𝗀 just created a large explosion, sending her flying and winning the match. The winner is 𝗵𝗃𝗀. Midnight then shouted as everyone started cheering again. That wasn't half bad, round face, 𝗵𝗃𝗀 said as stood at the edge of the field. Now to give our finalists some rest, that won't be needed, Izuku shouted as he walked through the opening towards the field. Izuku is right, we don't need to rest, we'll fight right now, 𝗵𝗃𝗀 said as Izuku walked up the field on the opposing side from 𝗵𝗃𝗀. Izuku, that's the first time I actually heard you say my name, Izuku stated, however 𝗵𝗃𝗀 didn't respond. Alright then, since both finalists decided to fight already, let the final match begin. Midnight shouted as 𝗵𝗃𝗀 threw an explosion towards Izuku, whose eyes just started glowing, and deflected it with a wall of fire. Once the wall of fire blocked the explosion, it dropped as Izuku then flew up with flames coming from his feet. Mirio, Tamaki and the girl were still watching. Wait, so they actually intend to fight the match already? They both used already some energy in their fights, so wouldn't it make more sense to just take a small rest? The girl asked. Maybe, or they think they're in the same spot now, both used some energy, so even if they rested it wouldn't make any difference. Sure, they would have had more energy, but the gap between them would stay the same no matter how small, Mirio stated. Begin. The battle had started as 𝗵𝗃𝗀 threw an explosion at Izuku, who blocked it with his walls of flames, as he then started to fly with his flames after dropping the wall of fire. It really is him, Nejire said as she jumped up from her chair. You know him? Mirio asked. Yes, when I was little, that blonde guy used to be a bully and he picked on me once, but Izuku, he protected me with a wall of flames like he deflected that explosion just now. Afterwards he flew up like Izuku just now did, and they have the same name. How could I forget him? Nejire shouted. Well, how long ago has this been? Mirio asked. Around 9 years, Nejire stated. Well, it's been 9 years and you remember him again before meeting him again, so it's no problem, right? Mirio said while smiling. Nejire smiled as she watched the fight. I'm so glad he made it in you, I really want to talk to him again, she said with a bright smile. Back at the fight, Izuku flew up as 𝗵𝗃𝗀 did the same with his explosion as they both launched at each other mid-air. The clashes between 𝗵𝗃𝗀's explosions and Izuku's flames created even bigger explosions. The crowd went wild from seeing such an amazing fight. Well, I guess that was enough of a warm-up, Izuku suddenly stated as 𝗵𝗃𝗀 got wide eyes. What did you say? He shocked. That it was enough of a warm-up. Izuku said, curious. Why? He asked. You mean you haven't even gone serious once this entire time? 𝗵𝗃𝗀 asked. Not really, I actually took my time warming up, Izuku said as he awkwardly scratched his head. You idiot, 𝗵𝗃𝗀 smiled with a grin as he charged at Izuku. He sended a barrage of explosions towards Izuku, but he then disappeared from 𝗵𝗃𝗀's sight as the explosions missed its target. Izuku then went to the ground. Let's see if you can handle my special move, 𝗵𝗃𝗀 shouted. Sure, after that I'll show you mine, Izuku said with a grin. Sure, if you can take this. 𝗵𝗃𝗀 shouted as he spinned around, followed by explosions. Howitzer impact. He shouted. Izuku took a serious face as he placed flames in his hands, then smashed the ground with fearsome force at the last second to cancel out 𝗵𝗃𝗀's explosions. What the? 𝗵𝗃𝗀 asked, shocked with wide eyes and sweating. Time for mine, Izuku said as he kicked 𝗵𝗃𝗀 towards the floor. He then placed his hands up as he shot up a fireball which exploded in the air. Burning star. Izuku shouted as flames suddenly crashed down towards 𝗵𝗃𝗀. The move created a lot of smoke because of the impact it made. After a while it cleared and 𝗵𝗃𝗀 was at the bottom of a small crater as he was panting heavily. Damn it, I can't move my body, 𝗵𝗃𝗀 said, panting. Winner is Izuku. Midnight shouted as everyone went wild. You held back on me, didn't you? 𝗵𝗃𝗀 asked. Yeah, that attack has the power to really hurt someone. I'm not going to use it at full power on one of my classmates. I want my rival to stay in one piece if possible, Izuku joked as they both started laughing. After that, the ceremony was being held as Izuku held 𝗵𝗃𝗀 up. Normally 𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗀 would scream and shout at people, but he accepted Izuku, and that he became second. Just so you know, next time it will be me winning you here. 𝗵𝗃𝗀 said as he got the medal. Sure, I'll take you on any time, Izuku said. You've really gotten strong, 𝗵𝗃𝗀, Izuku then silently said. Well, it's thanks to you hitting some sense into me back then, 𝗵𝗃𝗀 admitted. Just don't tell anyone or I'll kill you hear? He said while being embarrassed. Sure, Izuku smiled. Everyone was allowed to go back home, however there was a lot of trash, so Izuku decided to bring it away. On his way there he walked past a wall as Mirio's head stuck through it. Izuku walked past it and froze for a second as he then slowly looked towards it. Hey Mirio, Izuku said uncomfortable. Hey Izuku, you really did great at the sports festival. Mirio said as he came out of the wall. Thanks, I tried, Izuku said as he smiled. Well, I'd love to catch up with you, sadly I'll have to go, I'll see you tomorrow in class, Mirio said as he disappeared. Tomorrow in class. But he isn't in my class. What did he mean? Izuku thought as he walked further to throw away the trash. The evening passed quickly as the next day arrived. Alright, everyone shut up and get to your seats, I've got an announcement, Aizawa stated as everyone quickly got to their seats. Alright, you can come in, Aizawa stated. Suddenly the door opened up as Mirio, Tamaki and Nejire showed up. Izuku looked at the three as he knew Mirio and Tamaki, but the girl also looked familiar. Tomorrow we'll do some disaster training, and those three will join us to have some help teaching you. Also, like some of you know, All Might became a teacher from this year on, he will also be coming to the training, Aizawa stated as everyone then started cheering. Nejire was listening but was only looking towards Izuku. Suddenly Aizawa spoke up. There will be another hero called 13, we're going to use her facility to do the disaster training, Aizawa explained. For short, the facility is called the USJ. Aizawa had just explained about the USJ and their disaster training, and Mirio, Tamaki and someone else had already joined the class. So Aizawa sir, who are those people? Kaminari asked. Why not let him explain, Mirio said pointing at Izuku. Me? Izuku asked as Mirio nodded. Izuku and Mirio then looked at Aizawa who already fell asleep in his sleeping bag. Guess that's alright then, Izuku said as he stood up and walked in front. Why me though? Izuku asked. Because you know all three of us already, Mirio stated bluntly. Well alright, guys, this here is Mirio Togata, Izuku said as he stood next to Mirio. Next is Tamaki Amajiki, but he's a bit shy, Izuku stated as he already knew that about him without asking. And next, Izuku said as he stood in front of the girl who just smiled at him. Nejire. Izuku asked surprised. I see you still remember me, she said with a bright smile as she heard him say her name. She then hugged him. Midoriya. Mineta and Kaminari shouted as they ran at him, but Tamaki stopped them as his fingers turned into tentacles, placing them back at their seats. It's been so long, Nejire then said. Wait, isn't she? 𝗵𝗃𝗀 said surprisingly calm. Izuku then turned around. The girl you attacked back then? Yeah, she is, Izuku stated bluntly. 𝗵𝗃𝗀 then looked outside a bit embarrassed at how Izuku told that so bluntly. So is he really the 𝗵𝗃𝗀 from back then? She suddenly asked with a curious look. Yeah, but he changed, he's not like the bully back then anymore, Izuku stated. Shut up, you idiot. 𝗵𝗃𝗀 shouted. Well, I mean he's trying to be different, Izuku said awkwardly after 𝗵𝗃𝗀's shout as everyone started laughing. But I'm glad to see you're here too. Izuku said as he smiled at Nejire. Well, we made a promise, didn't we? She said as she winked at him. Well, that's right, Izuku said with a bright smile. So, how do you know her, man? Kirishima asked. When we were 7 I once saw Izuku. 𝗵𝗃𝗀 was a terrible bully back then and wanted to blast me with his explosions, but Izuku protected me with his flames, Nejire said as Izuku had turned around towards the class as she then placed her arms around his neck. So are you two a couple then? Kaminari asked as both Izuku and Nejire started to blush madly. Nejire quickly let go of Izuku as she took a few steps back. Sure, I like him, but I don't think he likes me after not seeing me for 9 years, she thought. Izuku had familiar thoughts. I do like her, but would such an amazing and beautiful girl really fall for me? He thought. No response, huh? That's not a yes but also not a no, Azui said, placing a finger at her chin. Mirio and Tamaki just smiled as they definitely knew how Nejire felt because they never saw her act like that before. Suddenly the bell rang. And everyone walked out, but suddenly Kaminari and Mineta ran at Izuku and took him away. Nejire wanted to follow them because she wanted to spend time with Izuku, but Mirio stopped her. Let it go for now, those two are definitely full of energy right now, and I think you going now would make it worse for Izuku. We know how you feel, but why not tell him some other time when you two are alone? Mirio said as she blushed. I guess you're right, I'll see him tomorrow anyways, she then said with a big smile. Izuku, what the hell? How did you get such a hot chick? Mineta said, threatening to place Izuku full of sticky ball. However, he didn't respond as he just heated up with his flames so they would let go of him. Once they let go of him, Izuku used his flames to fly away. Izuku then flew towards the roof, but Todoroki was already training his fire and ice there. Oh, I'm sorry Todoroki, I didn't know you were here, Izuku stated. No problem, you can stay if you want, Todoroki said as Izuku nodded and laid down. After a while, however, the door opened up. Izuku and Todoroki both looked at the door, then to their surprise, Bakugo walked out. Bakugo, what are you doing here? Izuku asked as Bakugo just sat next to Izuku at the edge. Was that really her? Bakugo asked. Yeah, she was the girl you attacked when we last saw each other before you, Izuku stated. I see, Bakugo stated. You want to apologize, but you don't know how, right? Izuku asked. I never apologized for everything, and I guess my pride just gets in the way, so I'm not really able to, Bakugo explained. But you regret it, don't you? Izuku asked as Bakugo nodded. Then that's enough, Izuku stated as Bakugo gave a grin. You know you really improved, Izuku suddenly stated, taking Bakugo by surprise. The you from before would never sit like this and talk, Izuku calmly explained. Behind them Todoroki was still training but smiling as he heard everything. After a while, all three of them decided to go back downstairs and go back to the dorm. It was already dinner time as they decided to get some Chinese food. After that it had already gotten late as they all took a shower in turns and went to bed. The next morning they were asked to meet up in class. Aizawa and the trio were already in the class when everyone entered the class. Alright kids, since we'll be doing rescue training somewhere, we might as well let you use your hero suits, Aizawa said as a wall with suitcases opened up. Everyone but Bakugo and Todoroki cheered. They all quickly went to change. All of the hero suits were the same as the anime, except for Izuku's. Izuku's quirk is above in the picture, but without the strengthening part in the wrist. The trio also had their costumes on. Kaminari and Mineta started drooling at Nejire in her hero suit, but she only looked around to see Izuku. Once she saw him, she flew up and flew towards him. So, Izuku, what do you think? She asked, excited as she turned around for Izuku. Izuku was blushing at how beautiful it was and how he could see her body in that suit. It looks amazing on you, Izuku stated without thinking. Suddenly they both started blushing. 3M. Mean why? You're R. Really B. Beautiful, special in T. That suit, Izuku stuttered as she started to giggle. Alright everyone, get on the bus, Aizawa stated as everyone then got on the bus. Izuku sat next to Nejire opposite from Mirio and Tamaki, who just smiled at the two blushing messes in front of them. She looks hot in that suit, they both thought at the same time, looking at each other while madly blushing. So Izuku, you sure you two aren't a couple? You two have been blushing ever since you saw each other, and I noticed she was acting differently ever since you two started talking again, Azui suddenly blurted out as Mirio started to laugh. Izuku started but was cut off by Aizawa. Alright everyone out, we're here, he suddenly said. Everyone got out of the bus and walked inside as they then saw someone in a spacesuit. Good morning children, my name is 13 and I specialize in disaster rescues. That's also why I made this facility so people can train on that. She excitedly explained. Wasn't All Might supposed to be here? Aizawa asked 13 as she then whispered something towards him. Well, if that's the case, you guys will have to do with just us and the big three, Aizawa stated. Wait, the big, Kaminari asked as Izuku's eyes started to glow as flames swirled around him. Everyone looked surprised at Izuku, but he just looked down towards the plaza. Once Aizawa realized and turned around, he saw a lot of villains coming from a portal, as then lastly someone covered in hands stood in the middle. On his left was someone covered in black fog, and on his right was a strange creature with a weird beak and a brain on his head instead of in his head. Aizawa wanted to tell everyone to stay put, but Izuku already launched himself towards the plaza, as it created a small crater from launching himself with his power, as well as leaving a small crater from the force of his landing. The big three quickly joined after him. "You really are a creepy kid, you know that?" Mirio joked. However, Izuku didn't respond. The black fog suddenly disappeared and appeared above the stairs. "Aizawa, please keep them safe, we'll handle them," Izuku stated without looking. "Alright, but watch out," Aizawa answered. "Mirio, Tamaki, Nejire. Can I ask you guys to take care of the two at the portal?" "I'll take care of those guys in one attack," Izuku stated seriously. "Sure, no problem," Mirio said as Nejire flew up while Mirio and Tamaki ran towards the two. Izuku surrounded all the villains with flames as he then flew up and landed in the middle. The villains charged right at him, but Izuku started breakdancing over the floor with flames in his feet as the flames swung around like whips, launching all of the villains away. "That takes care of the," Izuku stated as suddenly Mirio and Tamaki shot past him towards the stairs. Izuku quickly turned around and saw Mirio and Tamaki bleeding from their heads, unconscious. "What the?" Izuku said as he turned around. Nejire then blasted the creature with her quirk, but it didn't even scratch it. Izuku noticed the creature going for Nejire now, as Izuku quickly flew up with his flames and flew in front of Nejire while creating a wall of fire against his body to try and stop the impact. However, Izuku was still pushed against Nejire and pushed back a little. "What happened?" Izuku asked as he dropped his fire and saw the creature on the ground looking at them. "We tried attacking that thing, but that man there ordered it to kill us." Mirio and Tamaki were countered with incredible speed. "Then just now he went for me," Nejire said from behind him as they landed a bit away from the creature. "Alright Nomu, you can kill him as well," the man covered in hands said as the Nomu just tilted his head sideways. Izuku grabbed Nejire in his arms and disappeared, while then appearing at another spot. At the same time, the Nomu crashed at the spot they were standing. "Incredible, Izuku can actually react to that speed," Nejire thought as she saw the Nomu. She then snapped back to reality and felt Izuku's arms around her. "His arms around me, it feels so warm and safe," she thought as she then felt Izuku tightening his grip. "I won't let you lay a finger on her," Izuku said in a serious tone. Suddenly the black fog appeared next to the man still at the portal. "Tomura Shigaraki, I'm sorry, but one of them escaped and is getting the heroes," the fog said. "Kurojiri, if you didn't have such a useful quirk, I would have killed you," Tomura said. "But that still gives us time to kill some of those kids before All Might arrives," Tomura said. "No one will be dying here," Izuku stated. "You think you can stop this Nomu? Go ahead and try. It's designed to kill All Might at 100%, Tomura said. "Nomu, no more holding back. Kill them," Tomura stated. Meanwhile, upstairs they were watching the fight as they saw Nomu suddenly appearing in front of Izuku, who was holding Nejire. Izuku was barely in time with jumping away as the Nomu charged back at them again. Izuku matched his speed until eventually the Nomu suddenly stood still. It turned towards Izuku as it then launched in a straight line instead of trying to smash him into the ground. Izuku then noticed he was just a few steps away from the unconscious Mirio and Tamaki. "I can't dodge now," Izuku thought as he let go of Nejire. His eyes kept glowing the entire time as he was using his quirk, as he then caught the Nomu's punch with his hand while pushing himself forward with his flames. Nejire quickly swirled her energy around Mirio and Tamaki as she flew up. "Go to the others, I'll handle him," Izuku stated. Suddenly the Nomu disappeared as it jumped up trying to punch Nejire. Izuku quickly jumped up while flipping around as he kicked the punch away with the force of his flames in his kick, which made the punch barely miss Nejire but still created a wind pressure that pushed her back. Izuku then turned around and kicked the Nomu in the stomach away. Izuku immediately charged after it as he kicked it towards the ground. He then kept himself in place with his flames while aiming a fireball towards the Nomu, but instead of shooting it, it split up in multiple streaks of fire. Scatter shot. Izuku shouted as the flames shot towards the Nomu. The attacks created a big smoke screen. Then suddenly the Nomu appeared behind Izuku as it smashed him towards the ground, creating a small crater in the ground. Izuku! Everyone shouted as Izuku was bleeding from his head. He quickly made a multiple-layer firewall to protect himself from the next attack, but the flames were pushed against Izuku as he was then punched even deeper into the ground. Suddenly they heard Izuku scream as an enormous pillar of fire shot out of the ground, blasting the Nomu away. Izuku then wobbly got to his feet while the Nomu laid on the ground. Izuku then shot a fireball towards the ceiling as it exploded. "Burning star," he said as the flames shot down like shooting stars towards the Nomu. The attacks were sent directly at the Nomu. Izuku was panting and bleeding on his head. The smoke cleared and the Nomu got to his feet, but it had lost an arm, and had some holes at the sides of his body, arms and legs from the burning stars. Suddenly the door broke open as All Might and the teachers barged in, but at the same time Izuku and the Nomu charged at each other. "Izuku!" Everyone at the stairs shouted again as the teachers all ran towards them to see Izuku and the Nomu clash again. They then saw the state Mirio and Tamaki were in as they looked back down and saw Izuku was in even worse shape. Izuku then suddenly screamed as the flames on his hands and feet intensified. "Time to end this," Izuku said as he kicked the Nomu's legs from underneath him, following with a fireball up close to its chest, blasting it up in the air. Izuku then placed his hand on the ground. "Death sentence," he shouted as suddenly thick spears of fire shot from the ground towards the Nomu, piercing its body as it killed the Nomu. The Nomu then fell to the ground as Izuku still had his hand on the ground while panting heavily. He then got up weakly, his eyes were still glowing but the flames on his hands were weak while the flames on his feet disappeared. "What did you do to my Inam?" Tamura shouted as he then charged at Izuku. Izuku hadn't noticed the teachers arriving, so he got ready for another fight as suddenly gunshots could be heard as he then saw Tamura falling forward on the ground as his legs were shot. Kurogiri quickly covered Tamura with his warp quirk as they then quickly escaped. Once they were gone, Izuku suddenly slowly fell forwards on the ground. He was exhausted. All Might immediately shot down towards him as he lifted him up. "Good job, young Izuku, you kept everyone safe," All Might stated as everyone ran down towards him. Izuku was still bleeding on his head and was still panting heavily and was obviously in pain. "We have to get him to UA to recovery, girl," All Might said as Aizawa placed a hand on his shoulder. "Go," was all Aizawa said as All Might nodded and shot outside back to you. After a while everyone got back to UA as they all quickly ran to Recovery Girl's office. "Calm down everyone," Recovery Girl said as she stood in front of her office door. "I figured you would all come here, you can come in as long as you stay calm and let him rest," she said as everyone nodded. She then opened the door as they saw Izuku laying there on a bed asleep. "Is he all right now?" Mirio asked. "He was in bad shape, he had a big bleeding wound on his head, and he had some broken ribs, but I managed to heal him entirely with my quirk, he now just needs a lot of rest," Recovery Girl stated. All Might was also still in the office. "Still, that last move of his, it was a real killer move," All Might stated. "I invented that move for if I ever got in a life or death situation," Izuku stated as he opened his eyes. Everyone was happy that Izuku was alright and had even woken up. "What do you mean by that?" Nizu said as he walked in. "Heroes aren't supposed to kill, but there is always the possibility that you don't have another choice," Izuku stated. "And if there would be a threat even All Might couldn't handle, then I could use that move," Izuku stated. "So that move of yours, it's more like a last resort, I take it?" All Might asked. "Yes, but I don't plan on killing people with it, I only used it on that thing because it wasn't human anymore," Izuku stated weakly. "Well, I'm a bit troubled that you thought this far ahead," Nizu suddenly said. "But I'm actually a bit relieved to have such a strong move as last resort. There are a lot of strong villains out there, and we all try to keep the streets safe together. I'm not saying that we should just kill some of them, but if there is ever a villain we can't handle, a villain even the symbol of peace can't handle, it's reassuring to have such a last resort," Nizu explained. "I had to use it at that Nomu thing," Izuku stated. "Why did you have to?" "We arrived just before you used it, so we could have taken from there, All Might stated. When I used it I still had the power to use it. If I had waited then everyone here would be dead, Izuku stated. Why is that? Nizu asked. That Nomu was created to kill All Might at 100%, Izuku stated as their eyes widened. It certainly had the force, my normal attacks, as well as Nejire's quirk. Didn't do a thing to it, Izuku stated. Normally there would even be a small reaction or pushing it back even a little, but it actually absorbed the blow, Izuku stated. So All Might could have used full force and it still wouldn't have done a thing, Izuku stated as everyone frowned. Even so, you faced it, your flames broke through him, and you kept me safe from that thing, Nejire said as she grabbed his hand and held it tightly. You were even able to stay ahead of that thing. Nejire stated as the teachers got wide eyes again. Wait, you actually managed to stay ahead of it with speed? All Might asked. Yes, Izuku stated shortly. I lack the physical strength you have, but I make up with it with higher speed and strong intense flames, Izuku stated towards All Might. My flames worked because it actually burned away its flesh, Izuku stated. He absorbed force but can't absorb heat or flames, he added. Still we're glad you're safe, Oswell, Aizawa stated as Nejire then suddenly hugged him. No one really was surprised by the sudden reaction from Nejire, everyone was worried about him, but they knew Nejire acted strangely around Izuku then with others so they knew how she felt about him. Izuku looked a bit surprised but answered the hug by hugging her back. I feel it again, she suddenly said taking him by surprise. Feel what again? Izuku asked curiously as she broke the hug. Your warmth, and also that safe feeling while being held by you and being around you, she said with a bright smile until it sinked in what she just said. She then started blushing and ran outside. Izuku looked defeated and had lost the idea of what was happening. Can anyone explain what happened? Because I'm lost, Izuku stated as they all started laughing. You'll have to ask her yourself, Mirio said. Well, I would, but at the moment all I can do is sit here and talk. I can't get up yet, Izuku stated. Well, you better rest up well then and ask her when you can, All Might said. Well, we're going now. Rest up, Izuku, Nizu said as everyone walked towards the door. Thanks again for keeping everyone safe, hero. It's been a week since the USJ incident. Izuku had recovered his stamina and was doing his training and school work again. At first Izuku was always alone at his training spot, but ever since the USJ happened Nejire joined his trainings, sometimes Mirio and Tamaki did too. So Izuku, I have to ask, Mirio stated. What is it? Izuku asked curious. I just keep thinking about your moves. You used Shooting Star at Bakugo but held back in power, right? Mirio asked. That's right, the reason I did is because I could hurt him a lot with it. Shooting Star takes my flames high up in the air and shoots it down at intense speed which powers it up as well, but my flames itself are already strong and intense, Izuku explained. If that move is so strong, then why and how did you invent Death Sentence? Mirio asked. Tamaki and Nejire also looked with a curious face towards Izuku who was clearly thinking. Sorry, I can't tell the exact reason, let's just keep it at, I saw something which I probably shouldn't have, but that moment made me realize I needed such a move, and because it's a killing move I only use as a last resort, Death Sentence sounded like a good fit for the move, Izuku stated. And as you could see, it had the effect it needed, Izuku said looking towards the ground. What do you mean you probably shouldn't have seen it? Tamaki then asked. I saw something and the person itself doesn't know it, but that person keeps it a secret, so I should Oswell, Izuku stated. We understand, sorry I was just curious, Mirio asked. To add in, I don't like using that move, so I hope I won't have to use it anymore, Izuku stated as he stood up and began training again. He really feels bad about using it, doesn't he? Nejire asked as Mirio and Tamaki nodded. Yeah, he's a good kid, he really dislikes killing, but in that situation he made the right choice, otherwise all of us would be badly hurt if not killed, Mirio stated. So, how are you and Izuku progressing together? Mirio asked curious while teasing her. What do you mean? She asked blushing madly. We know you have a thing for him, Tamaki stated bluntly. Yeah, but I don't even know if he feels the same, Nejire said looking down. Sorry guys, I have to go somewhere, Izuku said as he walked back to the trio. It's all right, want to meet up in the park later? Mirio asked. Izuku looked down lost in thought. Oh sorry, yes sure, Izuku said as he then walked off. There is more to this than we think, Tamaki stated as he kept looking at Izuku. Izuku walked back to school and went towards Nizu's office and knocked. Who is it? Nizu asked. It's Izuku sir, he said as he was allowed in. What brings you here on a day off Izuku? Nizu asked as he then saw Izuku's troubled expression. Could you let the teachers come here? Izuku asked. Sure, but what's this about? Nizu asked. My killer move, Izuku stated shortly as Nizu's expression went to serious as he called for all the teachers. Izuku sat in a chair beside Nizu as he waited for all the teachers to come. After a while, everyone walked in. Izuku? Midnight asked looking at both Izuku and Nizu. Nizu's expression was serious while Izuku just looked towards the ground troubled. What's this about? She then asked. Please close the door, Nizu stated as Mike closed the door while everyone sat down. So Izuku, do you want to explain? Or do you need more time? Nizu asked softly. No, it's alright, he stated as everyone got a bit worried. The other day, you guys asked me about my killer move death sentence, right? Izuku asked as he stood up as everyone nodded. I couldn't tell you guys the exact reason back then because my classmates and friends were there, Izuku stated as some of them frowned while others got wide eyes. Can you tell us the reason now? Aizawa asked with a frown. Izuku nodded. It's about you All Might, Izuku stated as everyone's eyes went wide. What do you mean young Midoriya? All Might asked while in his muscle form. I know about your secret, Izuku stated as everyone now looked a bit troubled. Does anyone else know about the fact that you know my secret? All Might asked. No, Mirio, Tamaki and Nejire asked me why I invented that move, even though my other move is already powerful. I told them it's because I saw something I probably shouldn't have, and that I can't tell because that person keeps it a secret. Izuku stated, I see, thank you for that. As for the secret, can you explain what you know? All Might asked as Izuku pointed towards All Might's left side. Your wound there, Izuku stated as Midnight, Cementos and Vlad gasped while Aizawa, Mike and All Might got wide eyes. How do you know about that? All Might then asked. A few years back, I was training around an abandoned factory. It was said villains roamed that area, but it was the best place to train so I went anyway. Then one day I heard explosions as if a fight raged on. I sneaked towards it, and I saw you fighting All for 1 inch, Izuku stated. You even know his name. All Might asked shocked. I also know more, but I don't know if I can say more about that, Izuku stated. You don't mean, he asked. Yes, I overheard your talk mid-fight, and I also saw you getting that wound. That's when I realized, even the symbol of peace can't handle everything alone. Sure, All Might, you seem indestructible, but everyone has his limits, even you. And that fight proved it, Izuku stated as All Might looked down troubled. I also know you've been getting weaker, Izuku stated as Aizawa started to frown. You've learned about something no one is actually allowed to. No, you know that? Aizawa asked. I know, I've been holding everything inside Oswell. Honestly, I wished I hadn't learned about it. I'm feeling restless ever since and I've been trying to get stronger. Izuku stated. I can't help but think, we'll encounter someone else strong enough to push or even beat All Might, Izuku stated gritting his teeth. So, you invented death sentence as a last resort because of what you saw back there? All Might asked. Yes, Izuku shortly answered. Then what would you say, if I tell you that All for 1 is still alive? All Might said while starting to sweat. All the more reason I should have invented this move. I'm not saying I should use it. In fact, I have mixed feelings about creating it, Izuku stated. Can you explain that? Why do you have mixed feelings? Midnight asked. I'm glad. I got a move to keep everyone safe as a last resort. Sure, my other moves are strong, and there are a lot of other strong heroes as well as a lot of strong people here at UA and at other schools. I'm just glad I got a move that could work where other powers might fail. Izuku stated. But at the same time I regret creating a move for the purpose of taking someone's life. Even now I feel sick using it at that Nomu creature, Izuku said smashing his fist on the table as then his eyes lighted up. Nizu placed a hand on his shoulder. We know you regret having to use it, but think of it like this. If you hadn't used it, you and everyone else would have been badly hurt, and you and All Might would have probably been killed. They would then take even more lives. You acted correctly in that situation, 𝗎𝗍 stated. I know. But still. This power, I wanted to save people and stop villains, not to kill, Izuku stated as he got angry for creating that move. Then what if you only use it for the world? Mike asked. What do you mean? Izuku asked. Well, if there is a villain with huge power, you got enough power as it is, and you're improving at a high rate, and we have a lot of other strong students and pros just like you said, and if strength won't work then there are other ways around it like tactics and your speed, Mike stated. So what if you only use that power when you feel like it's a hopeless situation and you feel like everyone around you will die if you don't use it? Mike asked. Maybe not thinking about taking someone's life, but saving everyone like you've done before, Mike said with a smile as everyone joined that smile and nodded. I think I can do that. Still, if I ever get in such a situation, and you all are around me, I'll let it depend on your decisions, Izuku stated. Alright, I think we can live with that. We'll carry that burden together with you, Aizawa stated with a grin. Izuku, about that other secret, All Might started. Everyone here knows, so it's alright. You know about One for All, don't you? All Might asked as Izuku nodded. Yes, I overheard you two talking about One for All, and how he killed your MST are the previous holder of One for All, Izuku stated. I see, All Might stated. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone, Izuku said as All Might then went to his skinny form, revealing his real form. So that's what happened afterwards, Izuku stated looking at All Might. Pretty disgusting, isn't it? I've become a walking skeleton, All Might joked. It doesn't matter to me, you're still All Might, Izuku said as everyone smiled at that comment while All Might was surprised at first but then smiled. Well, Izuku, thank you for telling us about your move, 𝗎𝗍 stated as Izuku nodded. Izuku then was allowed to leave the room as he walked towards the park where he would meet Mirio, Tamaki and Nejire. He met up with them and they noticed he was happier than before, as if something had fallen off his shoulders. They talked a bit more until it was time to go back to the dorms. It was already getting dark and they would be having school the next day. Izuku was still feeling a bit restless, but was also thinking about Nejire and the feelings he had for her, but then slowly fell asleep. The next day at school, classes went quickly. School just finished and Izuku was talking with some of his friends, but that was all disrupted very soon. So, has anyone seen what Kaminari looks like when he overuses his quirk? He goes like yay, Juru explained as she started to laugh. Hey, stop making fun of me when I'm still around. Kaminari groaned after hearing her say that. Come on bro, she is right, Kaminari said with a smile and a light frown. Right, Izuku? You've seen it, look out. He suddenly shouted mid-sentence towards Izuku. Izuku suddenly turned around outside as a javelin of flames shot towards the window. It was already too close for Izuku to deflect it, and it had too much force and speed behind it to just stop it. Izuku's eyes lighted up as he then destroyed the javelin as it was scattered around the building of UA. Izuku looked towards the ground as he suddenly saw a figure covered in flames standing in front of UA, as then explosions were seen in the city. Everyone from Class 1A was shocked as suddenly Izuku ran outside followed by Bakugo, Todoroki, Ida and Kirishima. Izuku made it outside just in time to stop the next javelin of fire reaching the school. Izuku this time managed to stop it and send it back to its owner. Let's go, Izuku said as they started running towards the city. Once they reached the city, buildings were burning and collapsing, hero agencies bundled together as they were fighting something, but once they saw what it was, they froze in place for a second. There were at least 5 Nomus roaming the city as they were attacking people, cars and buildings. Suddenly Izuku saw the fire user on a building as the fire user suddenly threw up a javelin of fire. This time it exploded in the sky as it crashed down in multiple buildings. Damn it! Izuku shouted as his eyes lighted up. I'll take care of him. Try working together with the others and destroy those Nomu, and if you can't fight them, try to save as many people as you can. Izuku stated as flames formed under his feet and shot towards the fire user. Before he left his friends there, he noticed the big 3 showing up as well as some teachers, but Izuku didn't hear them anymore as he was already too far away. Izuku then saw the fire user sending another javelin into the sky. This one also exploded, but instead of crashing into buildings, Izuku controlled them and shot them back towards the flame user, who then ran away. "Get back here!" Izuku shouted while flying after him at high speed. After a while the flame user stopped on a roof. Izuku flew right at him as suddenly someone jumped up from the alley below. Izuku was just in time to dodge a sword that was about to slash his face. "Who are you?" Izuku asked as he looked at the figure. "My name is 𝗧𝗵𝗲, the man with the sword stated. "And this is, well, I don't know who he is, I just call him Jack," 𝗧𝗵𝗲 stated. Izuku was really confused by this but shrugged it off. "So you two are with the League of Villains then?" Izuku gritted his teeth. "Yeah, they hired us for a job, to get rid of a wannabe hero," 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said as he held up a picture of Izuku. "So that's why you used a flame user, you knew I would go after him because I control flames," Izuku stated. "Yes, and it worked perfectly," 𝗧𝗵𝗲 stated as he charged at Izuku. "He's fast," Izuku thought as he shot flames at 𝗧𝗵𝗲, who just avoided it with ease. "Damn it, he can keep up with my flames. I know they are really fast, so it should be really hard to keep up, but he's doing it with ease," Izuku thought as 𝗧𝗵𝗲 then launched at him. Just as 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was about to slash with his sword, Izuku noticed a javelin of fire coming from his side, which took him by surprise and took his attention off 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Izuku thought as he managed to fly back just enough to avoid a fatal wound, as he was still slashed from between his neck and right shoulder down to his left hip. "You have amazing reflexes. Even when that move took you by surprise, you moved away just in time to avoid a fatal hit. However, you should be feeling the pain from that anyway," 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said as he licked the BLD of his sword, but nothing happened. "Why doesn't this work?" 𝗧𝗵𝗲 suddenly said. "Never mind, with that wound I won't even need my quirk," 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said, grinning. Izuku then landed in the alley, hoping the flame user would have less chance of taking him by surprise. "You really think I'm easier to beat with this wound?" Izuku asked. "Think again," he added as flames suddenly shot from the ground around him up high in the sky surrounding his body. "I have to say, I'm amazed by your intense flames and power they hold in them. Still don't think that will be enough to beat me," 𝗧𝗵𝗲 shouted as he charged at Izuku. Izuku then swept his left foot over the ground while spinning, then sweeping with his heel through the air at the height of his hip, as he then spinned around and did the same at head height, all while sending slashed of flames through the air towards 𝗧𝗵𝗲. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 was taken by surprise as he knew he couldn't avoid that. He quickly blocked it as he was hit by all three moves while being sent flying while creating a smokescreen. Suddenly a knife flew through the smokescreen. Izuku punched the ground with his flames as the force launched the knife away, but Izuku was then hit with a powerful flame from the back. Izuku said as he felt the pain in his back. "Totally forgot about him, but those flames aren't nearly as dangerous as 𝗧𝗵𝗲 with his weapons, but I can't focus on Jack as long as 𝗧𝗵𝗲 is still up, even while being blasted away. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 managed to throw a knife at me. If I turn my attention at Jack with his attack, then that knife would have stabbed me," Izuku thought as he got up again. Jack suddenly shot a barrage of flames at Izuku as 𝗧𝗵𝗲 suddenly threw multiple knives towards Izuku. Izuku saw an opportunity as he jumped back to gain more time, as he then controlled Jack's flames and sended them towards the knives. Izuku then powered the flames in his legs as he flew low over the ground. Izuku then reached 𝗧𝗵𝗲 as he then barely dodged 𝗧𝗵𝗲 trying to stab him. Izuku kicked 𝗧𝗵𝗲's feet from underneath him as he then spinned and heel kicked him hard into the ground while launching himself towards Jack at the same time. Izuku appeared before Jack as he blasted Jack from up close with a powerful fireball, creating an enormous explosion as Jack was sent flying high up in the air as he eventually fell to the ground. "Not bad. Not only are you holding your own against me while having that wound, you even found a split opening to take away my 2-on-1 advantage," 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said. "Guess it's time for me to get serious then," 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said as he released a lot of killer intent. "Don't think you'll scare me with that," Izuku said, gritting his teeth as he then released his flames again as they covered him and towered high into the sky. Izuku lowered his body as he suddenly screamed while holding his hands backwards besides him, as then fire shot from his hands towards 𝗧𝗵𝗲, but midway they bursted as multiple shots of fire shot towards 𝗧𝗵𝗲. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 quickly jumped up as the flames started to follow him and split again, creating more streams of flames. In the meantime, 𝗧𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶cie, Bakugo, Todoroki, Ida, 𝗕𝗁𝗏, Nejire and 𝗕𝗵𝗲 joined up at Izuku's place as they saw Izuku in that stance while his flames followed Stain, who desperately tried to avoid Izuku's flames. Eventually Stain was surrounded from all sides as flames shot at him from all sides. Fire zone, Izuku stated as Stain then got hit by all of the flames around him. If you have seen Bleach Ichigo vs Byakuya, well, it's sort of like that. Before Ichigo sliced all the leaves with his Bankai, I just thought about that while reaching the end of this chapter. Stain fell to the ground still smoking from the flames as he was also unconscious. Izuku was panting a lot, but he was also bleeding a lot from his wound. His friends arrived from behind him, so they hadn't seen the big slash at his front. They were amazed by that move, but Izuku then suddenly fell to his knees with his hands on the ground, panting even more. Aizawa and the others ran towards him as Aizawa then saw a lot of BLD dripping from Izuku as he arrived next to him. "We have to get you to recovery, girl," Aizawa stated. Izuku then managed to get to his feet as everyone then saw his wound. "Izuku, there is something I should tell you. I know it might not be the right time, but you have to know," Bakugo stated as Izuku turned around panting. "The explosions happened around the place you and your mom lived. There is nothing but rubble now," Bakugo stated, terrified of what that would mean. Izuku's eyes widened as they then started glowing. Izuku then shot up with a lot of force as it even created a small shockwave, pushing everyone that stood around him back. Izuku immediately flew towards the place where he used to live as there was indeed only rubble to be seen. Izuku shouted, hoping someone would answer him. The force of his last flames melted his shoes, so Izuku was walking barefoot between the rubble. He repeated. Bakugo and Nejire then showed up as they both flew after Izuku with their quirks. Answer me," Izuku shouted as he suddenly saw a pile of rubble move a little. Izuku shouted as he ran towards it, followed by Bakugo and Nejire. Izuku and Bakugo quickly took the rubble away. However, nothing could have prepared them for what they found. Izuku's mom was there, but she was barely alive as the explosion blew away both her legs and her left arm, as well as creating a small hole in her stomach. Izuku said in tears. "Izuku, I'm glad you're safe, honey," Inko said while coughing. "BLD, I love you, sweetie," she said before her eyes closed and she took her last breath. Izuku shouted in tears as Bakugo also had tears rolling down his cheeks. Nejire had her hands in front of her mouth while crying as then Mirio, 𝗕𝗵𝗲, Kirishima, Todoroki, Ida and Aizawa showed up. "No," Izuku suddenly said, taking Aizawa and the others that just arrived their attention. Aizawa quickly ran beside him as he then saw Izuku's mother laying there in that state. His eyes widening. The others wanted to come as well. "Stay back," Aizawa stated. "This isn't something you want to see," Aizawa stated. "No, no, 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 no. Izuku shouted as he then began screaming while his eyes started to glow. Suddenly flames first swirled around in a circle around Izuku as it suddenly intensified and shot up as a pillar high into the sky, creating a lot of force to send to others back a few steps. Izuku kept screaming in pain, sadness and anger as his power kept swelling and the flames kept getting stronger and stronger. "We have to stop him," Aizawa stated. "We have to do something. I can't stop his quirk like this. I can't see his body," Aizawa stated. Suddenly Amajiki changed his arms in oyster shells while Kirishima hardened his body as hard as he could as they both stuck their arms into the flames trying to create an opening. They managed to create a small gap as Bakugo and Nejire then took over. Nejire shot her quirk at full power towards the edge of the opening Kirishima and 𝗕𝗵𝗲 created as Bakugo used his explosions to also make the opening bigger. They managed to reveal Izuku's body. Aizawa quickly used his quirk on Izuku as the giant pillar of fire then disappeared. It then suddenly got very silent as the flames as well as the screams died down. Nejire, Bakugo, Kirishima and 𝗕𝗵𝗲 then started panting heavily. The fear already drained them of their energy, but they even used their quirks at full power to help Izuku. Suddenly Izuku collapsed. "This isn't good. We really have to bring him to recovery, girl, as fast as we can. He already lost a lot of BLD and now with that burst of energy," Aizawa stated as they all got up again and nodded. Mirio grabbed Izuku's unconscious body as they all quickly ran towards Yue. Once they arrived at Yue, Nizu was waiting for them. He wanted to congratulate them on their fast response to the attacks and explosion, but then he saw Mirio carrying Izuku as well as Bakugo and Nejire still having tears stream down their eyes. "I'll explain later. For now we have to bring Izuku to Recovery Girl," Aizawa stated as he took Nizu in his binding cloth and ran after Mirio towards Recovery Girl's office. Mirio barged in the office as it took Recovery Girl by surprise. "What the hurry?" she asked, surprised by the sudden entrance. "Please, help him," Mirio said in panic as he placed Izuku on a bed. Nizu and Recovery Girl then saw Izuku's wound from between his neck and right shoulder down to his left hip. "What happened to him?" Recovery Girl asked. "His hell became reality." "What do you mean when you say his hell became reality?" Nizu asked. "Izuku, Bakugo, Todoroki, Ida and I went outside when we saw the explosions. We noticed a flames user making explosions by sending his flames into multiple buildings with a single shot," Kirishima stated. "We arrived after that," Aizawa stated as Nejire, Mirio and Tamaki nodded. "We saw a huge towering flame a few times and thought it should be Izuku. It actually was as he beat the hero killer stain there," Aizawa added in. "Well, that's a good thing, right?" Nizu asked. "Yes, but that's where he got that big slash. I noticed that right after we arrived," Aizawa explained. "But if that's all, how could he have lost so much BLD, and to add in, he's also exhausted? If that fight was all, he wouldn't be nearly this state. It means he must have used a lot more power after receiving this wound," Recovery Girl stated. "Well," Bakugo suddenly said as he still had tears in his eyes. "The explosions, they also happened where Izuku used to live," Bakugo explained while other teachers also walked in as they had heard about Izuku. "When Izuku heard about this, he flew off with insane force, blowing us all a few steps back just from launching himself off," Bakugo stated as he gritted his teeth and tears began to stream. "Bakugo and I followed him. It was terrible, only piles of rubble could be seen. Izuku was walking through the rubble searching for his mother until he heard some rubble move. Bakugo and Izuku quickly ran towards it and took the rubble away, but what we found there," Nejire stated as she just couldn't continue anymore. "Was it really that bad?" Midnight asked as she sweated nervously. "Yes, I told the others not to come closer. His mother had lost both her legs as well as her arm and even had a hole in her stomach," Aizawa stated as all the teachers and Nizu gasped. "She was still alive when we found her. She died right in front of us," Bakugo said as small explosions formed in his hand. At that time, Izuku lost all control. He just started screaming and his flames shot up in an intense thick pillar of fire. It took the full power of Tamaki and Kirishima to create a small opening and full power from Bakugo and Nejire to open it up more so I could stop his quirk, Aizawa stated. "I see that outburst of energy and his emotions. Now I understand the heavy bleeding and why he's so exhausted," Recovery Girl said as she then looked at Izuku. "Poor kid," she then said in a sad tone as suddenly Izuku's face formed a frown as he then gritted his teeth and began moving a lot. "Izuku, calm down," Nejire said as she tried to hold him down. While Aizawa, Nejire, Bakugo and Kirishima explained what had happened, Recovery Girl had treated his wound as it was completely healed, but it did leave a scar. However, Izuku's body was still exhausted. Izuku opened his eyes and shot up. He then grabbed his face as he gritted his teeth while flames formed around him. Suddenly, Nejire grabbed and hugged him even while the flames already engulfed him. She fought through it as she kept holding him close. "Don't worry, I'm here for you. We're all here for you," Nejire stated as Izuku calmed down a little. Suddenly Izuku pushed her away. "Izuku," she said sadly. "Izuku, come outside," Bakugo said as he still had tears in his eyes. Izuku just followed while his eyes still glowed and flames still engulfed him. "What do you want?" Izuku asked as they could all hear his anger and sadness in his voice. "We're going to fight, right here, right now," Bakugo stated as they both got outside. "What? Bakugo, are you insane?" Nejire shouted towards him. She wanted to run towards them but was stopped by Aizawa. "But sir," she said, "you think this is the time to fight?" Izuku suddenly shouted, "You don't have a choice. It will happen." if you want to or not. Bakugo shouted back as he shot towards Izuku with his explosions. Izuku gritted his teeth and slammed the floor with his flames as it created a lot of force that pushed Bakugo back. That's right. Bakugo shouted as he shot explosions towards Izuku. Izuku just countered it by shooting his flames towards the explosions. Let it out. Bakugo then shouted as Izuku then suddenly charged an enormous fireball above his head. This is getting out of hand, Midnight stated as she saw the fireball. We have to stop them now, she added as Aizawa, Mirio, Nizu and All Might kept watching with a serious face while the others were worried. Izuku then threw the fireball towards Bakugo who countered it with everything he had, as it then created an enormous explosion. Both of the boys were now panting even though they had not even landed a blow on each other. You're not the only one who feels frustrated. Bakugo then shouted. We all are angry. We saw so many people die today. And those scumbags got away with it this time. We all know I know how you are feeling right now, so let it all out. Bakugo shouted as Izuku started screaming again as flames towered high above you. Aizawa wanted to step forward but was then stopped by All Might. The scream of anger slowly turned into a scream of sadness and despair. Eventually it turned into crying as the flames then disappeared. Izuku suddenly fell to his knees as Bakugo slowly walked closer. That's it, you idiot. Just let it all out. I'm just as angry and just as sad as you are right now. They took your mother, Auntie Inko, away from us. We won't let them get away with this. Next time they will pay for their crimes, Bakugo stated as he got to a knee and hugged Izuku in a bro hug as he also started crying. We stopped Izuku while he released all his pent-up emotions because it could kill him in the state he was in, but he just had to unleash everything and let it all out. Bakugo understood this, that's why he wanted to fight Izuku, because that's the only way he really knows how to. Throw everything out, Aizawa explained. Izuku still had flames forming on his back and around his body a few times as both the kids were still crying. Kirishima, Ida, Nejire and some of the teachers also had tears in their eyes after hearing and seeing all that. Bakugo then stopped the hug as he got back up and helped Izuku back up. Izuku then just stood there limply, not making a sound or movement. Nejire couldn't take it anymore as she ran towards him as she then placed her head in his back and placed her arms around him while she cried in his back. They both didn't say a word. Izuku eventually placed a hand on her hands. When she felt this, she just tightened her grip around him. Bakugo is right. We all know how you feel. We all know that it's painful what you experienced, but you're not alone. We're all here for you. Nejire cried in his back as Kirishima, Ida, Todoroki, Mirio and Tamaki walked closer as they then all started hugging Izuku. All the teachers looked at them in sadness. The school year had only just begun but they already knew just how strong Izuku was, but to see him break down like that, and hearing how he saw his mother die in front of him like that even had its impact on them. Guys, back of a little, I have to get this out of me, Izuku said as he desperately tried to hold back. Once they heard this, they all took a few steps back. 𝗬𝗏𝗲, make a wall around me please. A big strong one, Izuku said as he gritted his teeth. 𝗬𝗏𝗲 quickly made the wall as they suddenly felt a burst of energy coming from within the walls 𝗬𝗏𝗲 created as suddenly Izuku screamed again while a pillar of fire shot up. Suddenly they heard a sound as if he was attacking, as he actually was. Izuku smashed his power right into the ground as it created enough force to break the cement wall that 𝗬𝗏𝗲 made as it slowly crumbled down. Once it had broken down, Izuku stood there calmly, no flames surrounded him anymore. You all right now? Nejire asked softly as she walked closer towards him. Once she stood right in front of him, Izuku placed his head on her chest as he started to cry again. I lost her, I never wanted to, but it happened, and in such a way Oswell, he said as he cried. It hurts so much and I miss her, Izuku said as she then placed one arm around him as she placed the other behind his head. It's alright, your mother was in a lot of pain the way she was at the end, I'm sure she's proud of who you are, and she said herself, she's glad that you're safe, she died with a smile on her face, Nejire stated. She doesn't want you to be depressed or broken about it, she wants you to be the strong and kind Izuku like always. And she wants you to capture the people that did this to her, Nejire stated as Izuku nodded. Suddenly Izuku fell down as he had fallen asleep. She quickly caught him and got to her knees while holding him. She looked at him as she then saw Izuku with tears still around his eyes, but his face was peaceful. They then brought Izuku to his room. Once they reached the dorm, everyone quickly ran towards them, but they saw Bakugo, Nejire still with tears in their eyes, as they also noticed tears still around Izuku's eyes. "We'll explain later. For now we'll take him to his room," Bakugo stated as he together with the big three, Kirishima, Ida and Todoroki, went to his room. Nejire then placed him on his bed as they all looked at him. After a while they wanted to leave when they suddenly heard Izuku say, "Please, don't leave." They all turned around to look at Izuku as they all just sat around in his room. After a long while Izuku woke up as he then saw everyone still in his room. "Thanks for staying around and being there for me," he immediately said as he saw them. "We're friends, right?" Ida said as everyone smiled at him. Izuku then got up from his bed. He took his shirt off as they then all saw the scar from between his neck and right shoulder down to his left hip. Izuku took a fresh shirt as they then all walked downstairs. It only took a few seconds till everyone swarmed around them. "So what happened? You guys were gone so long?" Zero asked. "We even heard Izuku got hurt," Kaminari stated. "Then you all come back with tears in your eyes," Momo said in a sad tone. "Please tell us," Mina said in a worried tone. "Guys," Kirishima started as Izuku cut him off. "It's alright, Kirishima, just like you guys, I know they are too," Izuku stated. "We encountered villains on our way out, we split up, I went after the fire user, Bakugo together with Kirishima, Todoroki and Ida went after the Nomu that were attacking in the city, I even defeated the hero killer Stain, only after he got a good hit in too," Izuku stated as he lifted his shirt showing the scar as they all got wide eyes and gasped. "However, that was nothing compared to what happened afterwards," Izuku stated as he balled his fist while gritting his teeth. "Bakugo noticed that the explosions happened around the place I used to live. I quickly made my way there. I eventually found my mother together with Bakugo. She died right in front of us," Izuku stated as his eyes were covered by his hair. Mina, Uraraka and Momo had their hands in front of their mouths while the others had wide eyes and didn't know what to say. "That's horrible," Azui suddenly said as she teared up after hearing that. "But are you really alright to be moving and telling us this like that?" Uraraka asked. "I have to accept what happened, no matter how hard it is. We can't save everyone no matter how bad we want to. I learned that the hard way by losing my own mother, but that doesn't mean I'll give up on becoming a hero. I'll become the greatest hero the world has ever seen. And I will get the villains responsible for my mother, her death, and make sure they are locked away," Izuku stated as he held his face in front of his face covered with flames. Bakugo then placed his hand on Izuku's shoulder. "And we'll help you," Bakugo said as everyone nodded. "Now let's all give our bro Izuku a big hug, everyone," Kirishima said in a goofy way as everyone launched towards him. After a while Aizawa, All Might and Nizu walked in. "Are you feeling a bit better, Izuku?" Aizawa asked a bit worried. "I'm doing alright, I've got my friends here at least," Izuku stated calmly. "Good to hear," Aizawa said with a light smile. "Now the reason why we came here, since we got so many capable heroes in our class, we wanted to try and get you guys a hero license early on in your first year, especially since you all arrived at the scene in a short time after it happened. You also handled the situation accordingly. However, you actually weren't allowed to use your quirks because you didn't have your licenses, but that's been fixed." Nizu told the chiefs that he allowed the usage of the quirks, Aizawa explained. "Now the reason we're here is, we wanted to hold some sort of exam before letting anyone take the exam. You'd have to take the exam and pass it before you should be allowed to take a shot for the license," All Might explained. "But after everything that happened," Nizu said as he looked at Izuku. "We didn't know if we should hold the exam or take it at another time," Nizu explained. "We didn't want to be the people to say yes or no, so we're here now and wanted to ask you, Izuku, are you ready to take that exam with the others? Or do you need more time?" Nizu then asked. "Don't worry about me, I'm alright and just like everyone else I'm ready for this, and it seems that I can do more with a license, so that just gives me more reason to get one in," Izuku stated. "When will the exam and license exam be?" Izuku asked. "The exam at school will be in a few days then. As for the license exam, that will take a few weeks," Aizawa stated. I see, well I'm up for it, what about you guys? Izuku asked the others as everyone lifted their fists and shouted, yeah. In unison. All Might, Nezu and Aizawa smiled as they then walked off. Izuku together with his class and the big three decided to spend some more time together. Izuku even decided to take it easy and let his body rest until the exam. However, they never imagined that the exam would be teams of 2 versus the teachers. Teams will be same as anime, some teams had won while others Kaminari and Mina won with luck as they luckily found the gate while running formed steel bars that Nezu made fall everywhere. The big three was also watching from the spectators' room. The last match was Izuku and Bakugo versus All Might. This should be interesting to watch, Mirio stated with a confident smile on his face as all the teachers and everyone from Class 1A was watching, even Nezu. So they have to beat All Might, or get past him and go through the gate? Uraraka asked while sweating nervously. Is it even possible for them to defeat All Might? Mina asked concerned. Those two can, Nezu suddenly stated. If they work together, they could take All Might, he added while watching the screen. Izuku and Bakugo were both stretching in their hero suits. You ready for this? Izuku asked. Who do you think I am? Bakugo stated as they then both grinned. We'll have to work together to beat him though, Izuku stated. Well, let's do it then, Bakugo stated as Izuku then looked at him surprised. Don't look at me like that, you're my rival to become number 1, your strength is the only one I accept to be my equal, Bakugo said embarrassed. As they then heard the start of the round as Izuku's eyes started glowing. Izuku then jumped forwards as he kicked his flames forward towards the ground as he created half a circle around himself and Bakugo which blocked the wind pressure All Might shot towards them from the other side of the field. He's insane, shooting in air pressure from over there, Bakugo said grinning nervously. Who are you calling insane, young Bakugo? All Might suddenly said as he appeared behind Bakugo who turned around surprised. All Might threw a punch at Bakugo but this was blocked as Izuku countered by kicking All Might's punch blocking the fist as Bakugo then blasted All Might away with an explosion to the stomach. Not bad, I underestimated your speed, young Izuku, All Might stated. You haven't even seen it, Izuku said as he suddenly disappeared leaving just a small trace of his flames at the place he was. Izuku then suddenly appeared behind All Might as All Might turned around surprised but right as he did, Izuku disappeared again as he then felt a fireball explode in his back launching him away. Wow, Izuku's speed is insane. Kirishima stated. As they were all amazed. Suddenly they heard Izuku speak. All Might, take off your restraints, we'll take you on head-on without your restraints, Izuku stated. Are you sure about that? All Might asked. We want to become heroes and get stronger, with those restraints on, Izuku can take you down himself, but we want to get stronger and surpass our limits, we'll win while taking you at full power. Bakugo suddenly said as he stood beside Izuku. It's alright All Might, if that's what they want, then you are allowed to do so, Nezu said as he used a speaker so All Might could hear him as he then took off his restraints. Don't say I didn't warn you, All Might said as he then instantly appeared behind Bakugo. However, Bakugo instinctively acted as he threw a big explosion at Bakugo. All Might blocked the explosion and waved the smoke away, but when he did, he left himself wide open. In that instant Izuku shot through the opening as he gave All Might a heavy flaming punch to the face as Bakugo then placed his hands on All Might's chest as he blew him away. Get ready, Izuku whispered as he stance again for his move as he lowered his body and held his arms back beside him as he then slammed them forwards shooting flames towards All Might as they bursted open in multiple streams of flames. Those streams bursted open to create even more streams of fire. All Might noticed this and created air pressure moves to move mid-air trying to avoid the flames. However, every time he did, the flames bursted open creating more streams of fire making it harder to avoid until he eventually was trapped in a cage of fire. Fire zone. Izuku said as every stream of fire then shot towards All Might. The impact created a huge explosion. Once the smoke cleared, All Might had still sustained damage even while blocking the move. He looked down as he then saw Izuku launching Bakugo towards him who held his gauntlet towards All Might. Once he reached All Might he pulled the safety pin just inches away from All Might who got wide eyes. An enormous explosion was shot from the gauntlet as All Might just barely blocked the explosion. Bakugo was shot backwards as Izuku caught him while flying up. All Might crashed into the ground after that blow. All Might then quickly tried to get up as Izuku quickly shot a ball of fire into the air. Burning Star. Izuku shouted as stars made of fire shot at insane speed towards All Might, creating heavy blows. Once the smoke cleared, All Might laid on his back in a small crater. "Let's go," Izuku said as he used his flames to fly towards the gate as Bakugo used his explosions to fly. Once they got close to the gate, All Might appeared before them again as he panted heavily. "You haven't beaten me yet, young men," All Might panted. "Keep going," Bakugo said as Izuku then shot 3 streams of flames, one from the middle and flames towards both sides of All Might. All Might quickly countered the first with an air pressure punch as he deflected the other 2, but at the time he deflected the other 2, the smoke from destroying the first flame was blown away as Bakugo appeared in the opening Izuku's flames created. "Howitzer impact," he shouted as he crashed right into All Might, launching him back as Izuku quickly grabbed Bakugo's arm and flew through the gate in time. They actually did it. Everyone cheered. "I can't believe those two. As far as I know they never really fought together, but just now, they fought as if they had never done anything else before. They trusted each other without hesitation," Aizawa stated after seeing their fight. "You were right, Nejire, those two actually beat All Might," Midnight said, surprised. Izuku's speed surpasses All Might, so he would always have a chance against All Might if he used that speed to his advantage, but by working with Bakugo, both of them created openings with their moves while the other knew exactly what to do and finished it, Nejire stated. "Those two are extremely powerful together," he added in. Izuku and Bakugo got back with All Might as everyone started cheering. "We all passed the exam," they all shouted in unison except for Bakugo, Tokoyami and Todoroki, who all just smirked. "Our next stop will be the license exam." After everyone managed to beat the respective teacher and passed the exam, everyone was allowed to be taking part in the license exam. "Alright, everyone did a great job on passing the exam. We still got a few weeks until the license exam, so for the upcoming time until the license exam you will all be working on creating some ultimate moves as well as train some more on controlling your quirk," Aizawa stated as everyone nodded. Everyone was then taken towards Gym Gamma as they all had their hero suits on. "For this training, I asked the help of 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 as well as 𝗬𝗏𝗧. 𝗬𝗏𝗧 will provide the stages and terrain so everyone can train. 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 will be providing an opponent to try your moves on as he will make clones," Aizawa explained. 𝗬𝗏𝗧 placed his hands on the ground as some pillars slowly rose from the floor as 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 then made clones as they all jumped to a pillar. Izuku stood in front of one of the clones as he started thinking. "What are you thinking about?" 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 asked. "Well, I already got myself a few special moves, and even a finishing move, although it really finishes someone off," Izuku stated. "Well, that's right, you do have the most control over your quirk, and I don't mean just the first years, I think you have the most control over it compared to all the students," 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 stated. "Since you only got an overpowered finishing move, why don't we make a move that can either be a special move and also a finishing move," 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 added. "Well, that sounds like a good idea. I already have my Burning Star and my Fire Zone as special moves. Death Sentence is my killer move, so a move that could act as a special as well as ultimate move would really be a good choice," Izuku stated. "Well, I've been thinking about one if you would like to hear," 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 stated. "Sure," Izuku said with a slight smile. Ever since he noticed what happened, he hasn't been able to really laugh or smile anymore, only fake ones and small ones. "It's something I came up with after seeing your last fight with Bakugo. It's hard to mstr, but I think with your control you should be able to do it," 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 stated. "Alright," Izuku stated. "Well, first, can you make those big fireball you created at will? Or was that only when you were in that rage?" 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 asked. Izuku then placed his hand up as his eyes started to glow. Suddenly an enormous fireball that reached the ceiling suddenly appeared as everyone was shocked by the sudden fireball. "𝗬𝗏𝗧, please make a barrier, we'll be having a test, if it goes wrong then we'll train somewhere else after this," 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 stated as 𝗬𝗏𝗧 nodded and made a wall to cover everyone. "Alright Izuku, now for your move, I want you to compress those flames and power in a smaller form," 𝗕𝗏𝗯𝗹𝗶 stated. "Oh I see, This fireball can pack quite a punch, but because it's so big, it's really slow and easy to dodge. But if I make it smaller, it gains speed as well as destructive power and won't be dodged as easily, Izuku stated as he then started to concentrate as the fireball slowly got smaller and smaller. When the fireball was a lot smaller, he lowered his hand to just in front of him as he then grabbed his wrist. Izuku was beginning to sweat and breathe, but the fireball wasn't small enough. Suddenly the fireball exploded, sending Izuku flying directly into the wall 𝗬𝗵𝗲 created earlier. Izuku then fell to the ground as he was coughing from the impact and panting from the energy he used. It's a lot harder than I thought, Izuku panted as the wall behind him was undone. I'll use my main body to train you. 𝐈𝐧𝐻 let me know if you need more clones. We'll be right outside the gym, 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗵 stated. Izuku and 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗵 then walked outside. Alright, for the following weeks, we'll work on developing that move. Are you alright with that? 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗵 asked as Izuku nodded determined. Weeks had passed. Izuku had mastered his move, as well as doing it in higher speed for lower usage of power. He could make it at an incredible speed, however for bigger power he needed more time and wasn't ready to be used yet in a one-on-one fight. Alright kids, you all trained hard. The license exam will be next week, so for this week I want you all to enjoy yourself and relax. You all did good with the training, 𝐈𝐧𝐻 praised them as most of the class started to cheer. Izuku, however, wasn't happy at all. He still hadn't mastered using his fireball with more power, and he was working in secret on another move. After school, Izuku went to his usual training spot. As he practiced his new move, which he then finally mastered after sweating a lot and hours of practice on it. That's a good move you created, Izuku heard from behind him as he suddenly saw 𝐈𝐧𝐻 behind him. 𝐈𝐧𝐻, sir, I didn't know you were here, Izuku stated. I've been here every time you went here for the past time. We've been all worried about you ever since that happened, 𝐈𝐧𝐻 stated. Everyone is still worried about you. It seems like you're always troubled with things, and I just kept an eye on you in case something might happen, 𝐈𝐧𝐻 explained. I see. Thank you for doing so, Izuku said as he bowed. Still, it's impressive you actually created such a technique in a short amount of time even after all the trainings you did, 𝐈𝐧𝐻 explained. Well, it's not nearly as hard as what I've been practicing with 𝗕𝗏𝗧𝗵, Izuku said as he scratched his head. Don't worry kid, you got this, 𝐈𝐧𝐻 said before he walked off. 𝐈𝐧𝐻 sir, Izuku then said. Yes. What is it? He asked. Is it alright if we use the pool tomorrow? Just to relax a bit and also relax our bodies, Izuku asked. Only if you keep my neta in check, 𝐈𝐧𝐻 stated. Sure, no problem, Izuku stated as 𝐈𝐧𝐻 then smiled and nodded. You are allowed to use the pool tomorrow, he said before walking off. Izuku walked back towards his dorm as he then took a shower and changed into fresh clothes. He then walked towards the common area where everyone was already talking with each other. Hey guys, I got something to tell you all, Izuku said, taking everyone's attention. Since everyone worked so hard, I asked 𝐈𝐧𝐻 if we could use the pool tomorrow to relax ourselves and our bodies, and 𝐈𝐧𝐻 approved this so we can use the school pool tomorrow, Izuku stated as everyone but Todoroki, Bakugo and Tokoyami cheered, however they did smile. Thanks a lot Izuku. The girls shouted as they all jumped towards him. Don't worry about it, everyone really trained hard. So I just thought I should try and get approval for everyone to use the pool, Izuku then stated. We don't want to hear that from you. We all know you went to do some secret training every day after school, Bakugo stated as everyone nodded as Izuku just scratched his head. Still awesome that you got permission though, Bakugo added in as everyone nodded. Izuku then went outside for a walk until he eventually reached ground beta. Izuku used his quirk to fly up and got inside as he sat on top of a roof watching the sun setting. Izuku had been staring at the sky and the sun slowly getting smaller and smaller when suddenly he felt two arms wrap around him. What are you doing here all alone? Nejire then asked as she had placed her arms past his neck around him with her head next to his. Just thinking and enjoying the view, Izuku stated with a blank expression. You still haven't been able to accept what happened. Haven't you? She asked as she tightened her grip. I tried, but every time I tried accepting it, I keep having those dreams where I see her in danger. I try with all my might and speed to get closer, but she only gets further and further away until another disaster strikes her and I see her die all over again, Izuku said looking down. Just know that I'm here for you, I always will be, Nejire stated as she placed her head against his as Izuku laid a hand on her hands. Thanks, Nejire, Izuku stated. How did you know I was here though? He then asked. Well, I wanted to see you, so I went to your dorm, but you had already left for a walk. I then saw something fly above ground beta, so I came here and saw you, she explained. Why did you want to see me? Izuku asked, a little surprised. I don't know, I just had this feeling like I wanted to be with you. I've been having this for a while now. 𝗬𝗲 is constantly thinking about you. I like being around you and I just feel really good when I'm around you, she explains. Izuku was at a loss for words. He didn't know what to say to that. I see, I got you speechless there, she teased as she rubbed her head against his. Thanks, Izuku just stated. Huh, what for? She asked. Everything, he said as he grabbed her hands and held them tightly. At first she was confused, but after feeling him grabbing her hands like that with such warmth, she just smiled as she placed her head down in his neck while placing her head against his again. They both sat like that for a while until it slowly got dark. Let's go back, I don't want you getting in trouble because of me, Izuku stated as he got up and helped her up. I don't really care, I like being with you, she stated with a beautiful smile. Izuku looked at her as a small soft smile appeared on his face as her face lighted up even more after seeing that. She also blushed a little after seeing that small soft smile from him again. Izuku and Nejire then both used their quirks to fly outside the training grounds as he flew her back to her dorm. When he said bye, he flew back to his own dorm, but instead of sitting with the others, Izuku just went to bed. The next day everyone went to the school pool as Izuku just sat at the edge of the pool while almost everyone was playing in the middle. Bakugo was dragged into it by Kirishima. Tokoyami also sat on one of the sides. Todoroki, however, was pulled in by Momo and was enjoying himself. Hey guys, care if we join in? They heard as they all turned towards the door. Suddenly they saw the big three walking towards the pool. Hey guys, what are you doing here? Izuku said towards Mirio as Nejire and Tamaki were behind him and he hadn't seen them, however he knew they were there. Well, we heard you were gonna use the pool and asked if we could come too. We were allowed since we were good friends of yours, Mirio explained as he sat beside Izuku. Hey Izuku. Nejire said energetic as Izuku then faced towards her as he looked amazed and surprised at the same time. How do I look? What do you think? She asked as she even spinned around for him. Wow, Izuku stated as he saw her. So, what do you think? She asked with a brilliant smile. Perfect, Izuku stated without thinking. What do you mean? She asked as she blushed madly. Izuku was staring without saying a word until Mirio helped him back as he softly pushed Izuku's side. Come on Izuku, answer the lady, Mirio joked. Oh, I'm sorry, I just mean it fits you perfectly, you've got a really nice body and you really look amazing, Izuku stated while blushing 𝗬𝗲. Nejire blushed even more but then shrugged it off as she smiled brightly at him. Thanks for the compliment. She stated proudly as if only his opinion mattered to her. Good job, Mirio whispered in his ear. Izuku then turned to Mirio, but once he did he heard a few fast small steps getting closer as Nejire then sat next to him as she sat against him with a smile. So they are like that and yet they aren't even together? Kirishima asked as everyone nodded while being amazed at how Izuku and Nejire acted together. Izuku then felt a creepy stare toward himself and just next to him. Izuku looked towards the pool and saw Mineta drooling while staring at Nejire. Izuku noticed that Nejire was very uncomfortable by his stare. Mineta, Izuku suddenly stated, taking everyone's attention. Have you ever wondered what would happen if I used my flames on your quirk on your head? Because I'm getting very interested in trying it out, Izuku stated as his eyes lighted up. Mineta's face turned from drooling to fear as he turned his back towards them. Everyone else except Izuku then started laughing. Izuku closed his eyes as he was enjoying the sun as he suddenly felt Nejire placing her head on his shoulder. When he looked towards her, her face was peaceful but had a bright smile on her face, as well as a small blush. Izuku knew she was enjoying herself. Suddenly she opened her eyes as she then pushed herself from the edge into the water while pulling Izuku in as well. She then started laughing at him as he was surprised by that action. Nejire then stopped smiling as she got very close to him. She looked at his scar as she placed her fingers on the scar as she followed it until his stomach. "Does it bother you?" Nejire asked. "You mean the scar itself or you touching it?" Izuku asked. "Both?" Nejire asked a bit concerned. "Nah, the scar doesn't really bother me, apart from the fact it looks ugly, but I don't mind you touching it," Izuku said. Everyone heard Izuku say that as they then turned towards Izuku and Nejire. Nejire then suddenly remembered what had happened that day as she then got sad. Izuku noticed this and frowned as he then placed his arms around her. She placed her head against his chest while getting closer to him. The others were worried about them but decided not to do or say anything, since they couldn't change it anyway. Mirio and Tamaki frowned as well. Not only was Izuku, a boy who became a really good friend in a short time, troubled and depressed for a while, but also Nejire was still sad and hurt by what she witnessed. However, they knew she was mostly sad and troubled by it, because of how Izuku turned after what happened, and seeing him like that makes her remember that day. Both Mirio and Tamaki had been looking for ways to cheer both of them up but didn't find anything that could help them. After a while, Aizawa showed up telling them that their time was over and that they had to leave the pool. Everyone thanked Aizawa for the usage of the pool as they then all went to change. The days after that were all just relaxing until finally, the day of the license exam was upon them. They were standing in front of the bus that would bring them towards the place where the exam would be held. Mirio, Tamaki and Nejire were waiting at the bus as well. They cheered everyone, while especially Izuku on to get their license. Afterwards the bus left as they then reached the building. They also saw some students from Shiketsu as well as from Ketsubutsu. Most of the students were getting nervous as they closed in on the exam. "Don't worry everyone, I've seen all of you grow the past weeks and I know you guys can pull this off, now go out there and get those licenses," Aizawa stated. "Yes sir." They all shouted in unison as they placed on their hero suits as they then walked in. The first test was the ball throwing game. It'll be sort of the same as the anime. I'm sorry, I just can't think of much to make that part interesting, so I'll just skip it. The next part would be a rescue training, however. They weren't prepared for what it would look like. It especially had an impact on Izuku and Bakugo as the city looked like that day from the Nomus, the explosions, Stain and Inko. Ida placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder as Kirishima placed one on Bakugo's shoulder. "Don't worry about us, we're fine, because this time," Izuku stated. "We won't let anyone die," Bakugo finished. The second round started as the students all split up. Izuku managed to rescue someone as he then met Shindo. They both ran towards the first aid station together, when suddenly the wall broke down. "Tell me, wannabe heroes, can you fight and protect at the same time?" They suddenly heard as then 𝗓𝗄𝗏 showed up. "This is all part of the exam. They're testing us how we act under the pressure of a villain attack while rescuing," Izuku stated as all the other students nodded. "For now we have to change locations for the first aid station. You guys take all the injured to a safe place. Shindo will hold them back," Izuku stated towards everyone as the students at the first aid station were getting the people away as Shindo and Izuku ran towards 𝗓𝗄𝗏 and the villains. "I'll start hammering away at them, you make sure they stay down," Shindo stated as he started using tremors to throw the villains up and bring them off balance. 𝗓𝗄𝗏 wanted to attack Izuku and Shindo, but ice was suddenly shot towards 𝗓𝗄𝗏 as he had to bring his attention to that first. Izuku looked towards the ice user and saw it was Todoroki as then Inasa showed up as well. "You two focus on the henchman, we'll try and hold 𝗓𝗄𝗏 off," Todoroki stated as Izuku nodded. Izuku saw Todoroki use more ice as Inasa was controlling the wind around 𝗓𝗄𝗏. Meanwhile, Shindo had used another tremor to throw the henchmen up as Izuku jumped towards them, taking them out. Izuku sometimes took a quick glance towards Todoroki and Inasa's fight and noticed they weren't getting anywhere. "Todoroki, use your flames," Izuku shouted. "I already did, but that doesn't work," Todoroki said as he was trying to think about a solution. "Just do it," Izuku stated. Todoroki then shot flames at 𝗓𝗄𝗏 as 𝗓𝗄𝗏 tried to deflect them with his sonic waves, but before he could do that, the flames got twice as big and powerful, taking both Todoroki and 𝗓𝗄𝗏 by surprise, as Todoroki then noticed that Izuku was placing some of his own power in Todoroki's flames. The flames had a clean blow on 𝗓𝗄𝗏 as it created a small smokescreen, but once this disappeared, one of the henchmen shot Todoroki from the back with a cement gun. 𝗓𝗄𝗏 walked towards Todoroki as he grabbed him by the neck. "I'll start," 𝗓𝗄𝗏 stated. "With the wind user," he shouted as he used his sonic waves on 𝐴𝐴𝐴, as this created an opening for the henchman to shoot him with the cement gun 𝗬𝗏. "I haven't forgotten about you," 𝗓𝗄𝗏 stated as he then used sonic waves on Todoroki from inches away. Todoroki wasn't able to move after that as he and 𝐴𝐴𝐴 both fell to the ground. Izuku and Shindo were having trouble with the henchman as their boss was having the advantage on his fight. Izuku wanted to step in and help Todoroki when suddenly Todoroki unleashed all his flames and 𝐴𝐴𝐴 used his wind on it to engulf 𝗓𝗄𝗏 in a tornado of flames. "Boss!" the henchman shouted. "Now Shindo!" Izuku stated as Shindo used his quirk to launch all of the henchmen up as Izuku created a small wall of flames in front of him. "Rapid fire!" he shouted as lots of fireballs shot towards the villains. Izuku was then watching the flaming tornado as Shindo also stood on standby for what would happen next. Every normal villain would give in from such an intense attack, but what if someone got past this? Then what? You should always plan your next move. 𝗓𝗄𝗏 said as he broke free from the tornado of fire. Todoroki and 𝐴𝐴𝐴 still couldn't move as suddenly Izuku appeared in front of 𝗓𝗄𝗏 with insane speed. "I won't let you touch them anymore," he said with a small fireball in his hand, which he shot towards 𝗓𝗄𝗏's stomach from close range, sending him flying directly into a wall. "Wow, 𝐴𝐴𝐴," Todoroki and Shindo said after seeing that speed and power. "Thanks ectoplasm for all that training," Izuku stated as then suddenly 𝗓𝗄𝗏 broke free. "Good job taking advantage of the small opening I made after breaking free. I never thought someone would be fast enough to get that close unnoticed and use that opening to attack," 𝗓𝗄𝗏 stated. "Now let's see how you fare in a head-on fight," 𝗓𝗄𝗏 stated as he ran at Izuku at full force. Izuku also ran at 𝗓𝗄𝗏 as his hands were covered in flames. Their fists clashed, but right at that moment 𝗓𝗄𝗏 shot a sonic wave towards Shindo as he then aimed it at Todoroki and 𝐴𝐴𝐴. Izuku quickly made a barrier of fire which stopped the sonic waves. Izuku then pulled back his left arm as he created a fireball which immediately shrunk into a small fireball as Izuku shot another one from close range, launching 𝗓𝗄𝗏 up as he quickly followed with his fire zone as multiple streams of fire crashed into 𝗓𝗄𝗏, knocking him out. Right at that moment also the last people got saved and the exam was over. 𝗓𝗄𝗏 and his men were taken to the infirmary as Izuku had done quite a number on them with his flames. He even gained a personal praise from his fast judgment and how he supported another battle while he himself was fighting, as well as defending others while being on the offensive. Eventually all of Class 1A gained their licenses. They all quickly went back to UA to the dorm and started to party as they were all happy that they got their licenses in their first year on their first try. Class 1A had all gotten their licenses and were now allowed to use their quirks to do hero work on the streets. But getting their licenses changed nothing about their schoolwork as school still went on. Now that you've got your licenses, you all became semi-pros. Now you just need to graduate and join a hero agency, but school won't get easier just because you got those licenses, 𝗧𝗏 stated. In fact, now that you'll be able to do hero work on the streets, you'll need to train even harder so you can actually help people in need, 𝗧𝗏 added in as everyone agreed. "So, Nizu and I have decided that once summer vacation starts next week, we'll be going on a training camp," 𝗧𝗏 explained. "But what do we need a training camp for?" Uraraka asked. "Let's go outside," 𝗧𝗏 stated as everyone followed him. "Bakugo, how far did you throw this ball last time?" 𝗧𝗏 asked Bakugo as they got outside and he handed Bakugo the ball. "Around 705 meters, Bakugo stated. "Now, throw that ball again with everything you've got," 𝗧𝗏 stated. Bakugo just grinned as he pulled back. "Die!" he shouted as the ball flew away. "I bet he can reach over 900 meters now," 𝗬𝗏 said as 𝗧𝗏 then showed it was only 710 meters. "What the?" they all shouted. "It's true you all got better," but you improve your quirk, you only learn to control it better, as well as gaining experience. So with this training camp, we'll be improving your quirks, Aizawa stated as they then cheered. School was over and Izuku was jogging for his daily exercise. As Izuku reached the park, he noticed Mirio, Tamaki and Nejire sitting at a table as they were talking, but for some reason Izuku just continued his training instead of going towards them. Nejire spotted Izuku running past but was confused why he didn't come towards them. "What's wrong, Nejire?" Mirio asked. "Well, Izuku ran just past here. I figured he would come and say hi if he saw us, but he just ran past us," she stated a bit sadly towards Mirio. Mirio then looked and saw Izuku still running at the end of the park. "I'll go see what's up," Mirio stated as he then ran towards Izuku. "Don't worry about it too much, Nejire," Tamaki said as she then nodded. Meanwhile Mirio reached Izuku. "Hey Izuku, what's up?" Mirio asked Izuku as he got next to him. "Oh hey Mirio, what are you doing here?" Izuku asked surprised. "Seeing how you were doing," Mirio just stated. "I'm doing alright I guess," Izuku stated as this raised some suspicion with Mirio. "What's wrong then?" Mirio asked as Izuku then slowly stopped running. "Well, you see, we're going towards a summer camp for a week next week to improve our quirks," Izuku stated. "Well that's great right? You wanted to make your quirk stronger so this would be the best chance to get stronger." Mirio stated. "Well that's right, but I just can't seem to shake this uneasy feeling," Izuku said as he grabbed the part of his shirt on the middle of his chest. "Is it really such a bad feeling that it makes you worry this much?" Mirio asked in a serious way. Izuku just nodded. "I don't even know how to describe it properly, but it just feels like something is gonna happen," Izuku stated. "Well, promise me you'll be safe then, and if you can't promise it for you or me, then promise it for Nejire, she's really worried about you," Mirio stated. "Oh, I didn't want to worry her," Izuku stated. "Speaking of Nejire, how do you feel about her anyways?" Mirio asked. Why do you want to know?" Izuku asked, uncomfortable. "Just curious, you two seem to act different around each other than what you do around others," Mirio stated. "Well, even if I did like her, there is no way such an incredible, beautiful kind girl would be falling for me," Izuku stated as he then started jogging again. Mirio just looked a bit worried at Izuku but decided to go back. "So what was up?" Tamaki asked as Mirio returned. "Oh, he was just thinking about something Aizawa said," Mirio stated. "What did Aizawa say then?" Nejire asked. "Well, they're going to a summer camp next week, and he's just really nervous about it," Mirio said as he decided not to say anything about Izuku's bad feeling. Nejire tensed up a little after hearing about Izuku going on a summer camp. "What's wrong, Nejire?" Mirio asked after seeing it. "Oh, nothing, I was just thinking that I'll miss him when he's on summer camp," she stated as she then started to blush a few moments later after noticing what she just said. "What do you think of Izuku anyway?" Mirio asked. What I think about Izuku?" Nejire asked, curious as she then started thinking. "Just your honest opinion no matter what it is," Mirio said. "Well, he's certainly very strong and he's amazing with his quirk, but he's also very gentle and kind, he's smart and also very handsome and cute," she stated as Mirio and Tamaki started to smile. "But he's also different from the others, he's really special. When he held me during the USJ, even though we were facing that thing that could kill us all, I felt really safe and warm. I wasn't afraid at that moment, and always when I'm around him my heart beats faster and I get really warm. I can't stop thinking about him and just want to be around him most of the time," she explained. "Well, seems like someone has a crush on our little Izuku," Mirio teased. "Well, I guess I do," Nejire said with a small smile while blushing as this surprised Mirio because she normally would shout at him for saying such things. "Well, why don't you tell or show him how you feel?" Tamaki asked. "What? But what if he doesn't like me that way?" "It would make our friendship so awkward," Nejire stated. "I'm sure he likes you, Oswell, but I think he's just as unsure about you having feelings for him as you are feeling unsure about his feelings for you right now," Mirio stated with a smile. "You should really let him know," Mirio added as Tamaki agreed with him. "Well, I'll try," Nejire stated. After that the week quickly passed. Izuku looked a few times to see if he could find Mirio, Tamaki and Nejire, but strangely he didn't see them the rest of the week. Then the day Izuku and his class would be going to the summer camp arrived. Everyone was slowly getting on the bus as Izuku was the last to enter, but he was stopped before entering. "Izuku!" he heard from behind him as he turned around. He then saw Mirio, Tamaki and Nejire. "Hey guys, haven't seen you in a while. I've been looking for you guys for days but couldn't find you," Izuku stated as he then saw that Nejire was troubled. "Nejire, what's wrong?" Izuku asked, curious. "Well, I am Izuku. Someone told me that I should speak my feelings, but now that I'm in front of you, I can't find the words. I don't even know what to say right now, so I'll hope you understand what I mean after this." Nejire blurted out as she took a few quick steps towards him as she then kissed him on the lips. Izuku was surprised at first but didn't back away as he actually enjoyed it. The kiss was only for a few seconds, but for Izuku and Nejire it was as if time stood still. After those few seconds, Nejire broke the kiss off as she then took a few steps back while looking at Izuku with a smile and a blush on her face. Izuku was surprised by her sudden action, but also that it was Nejire, the amazing, beautiful and kind girl that kissed him while he thought it would never be possible for someone like her to like him. "I'm sorry kid, we have to go now, you'll just have to respond to that when we get back," Aizawa stated. "Oh yeah," Izuku said as he stared for a few more seconds at Nejire's smiling blushing face. "I promise I'll give you a proper response to that when I get back," Izuku stated as he turned around and walked towards the bus. "For now, just know that it felt great," Izuku said before getting on the bus. Once he got on the bus, the door closed as it immediately drove away. Nejire's face was still covered in a smile and a blush, but this time, with a sparkle in her eyes, she was finally able to let Izuku know that she liked him, and he didn't back away. He even said that it felt great. Nejire felt amazing at that moment. Meanwhile, on the bus, Izuku sat next to Bakugo as he first got praises from everyone on the bus as he walked towards his seat. "You finally know that she likes you," Bakugo suddenly stated as Izuku looked out the window. "You better man up and give her a straight answer about how you feel about her. She felt just as insecure, and you made her make the first move, so you better answer it properly," Bakugo stated. "Right?" Izuku said as he looked out of the window with the first real smile on his face after his mother had died. "Bakugo is right, she threw hints out everywhere, and I still made her make the first move, even though she might have been even more insecure about it than me. I'd better make it worth it and answer her properly," Izuku stated in his mind. After a while they arrived at a cliff where they stopped. Once they all got off the bus, they were met by Mandalay and 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗏 from the Wild PP Cats. "Good morning kids," Mandalay said with a smile. "Good morning," everyone replied in unison. "The Wild PP Cats own this spot of land. Everything you can see here is theirs," Aizawa explained. "And right there in the middle," Mandalay stated as she pointed towards the middle of the woods where it was open. "That's where the camp will be. If you leave now you can all make it before the sun sets," she stated. "That sounded like," Kirishima said as he began sweating nervously. "Get back on the bus," Kaminari shouted as suddenly 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗏 appeared behind them and threw everyone off the cliff into the forest. However, Izuku and Bakugo knew this would happen as they flew in the air with their quirk. "Don't think you two can escape training," Aizawa stated. We just didn't want to get thrown like that because of Kaminari," Izuku stated as he and Bakugo then flew down. "Before I forget to mention, 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗏 made a lot of monsters in the forest. You'll have to defeat all of them if you want to make it through the forest," Mandalay shouted from the cliff as suddenly a monster appeared from the ground in front of Mineta, who literally pissed his pants. Bakugo and Izuku launched at it as they destroyed it swiftly. After that 5 more monsters showed up. 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗏 had some kind of scanner in her glasses so she could see how they were handling her monsters as well as their energy output when suddenly an alarm formed in her glasses. Izuku held his hand out towards the monsters as he created a fireball. Izuku then shot forward as he smashed the first monster as the other 4 were destroyed by the fireball exploding and throwing fire at them. "Wow, incredible," 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗏 said after reading it as suddenly an even bigger energy output appeared on her glasses. A few seconds later multiple streams of fire shot out of the ground from the woods. "Well, you've certainly got a strong one with you, Eraserhead," Mandalay stated after saying that. Mandalay, 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗏 and Aizawa made their way to the camp. After a few hours the students arrived as well, while still some time before sunset. Why, you all did well, especially you lot. 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗆 stated as she pointed towards Izuku, Ida, Todoroki, Bakugo and Kirishima. You guys handled those monsters really well, she said as she jumped towards them. So 𝗵𝗲𝗍, who's the kid? Aizawa asked as he pointed towards a small boy. This is 𝗂𝐬𝗧, he's my nephew and he's been living with us, 𝗵𝗲𝗍 stated, but 𝗂𝐬𝗧 just walked off. That evening 𝗵𝗲𝗍, 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗆 and the other two members of the wild PP cats that arrived had made food for the students. Izuku was just done taking a shower when he noticed 𝗂𝐬𝗧 walking off. Izuku followed him with a plate of food until he arrived at a hill that watched over the forest. Izuku then noticed 𝗂𝐬𝗧 using a water quirk while attacking a big boulder. The stream of water already had a good amount of force behind it. It also broke the boulder at places. 𝗂𝐬𝗧 then noticed Izuku standing behind him. What do you want? 𝗂𝐬𝗧 asked arrogantly. Nothing really, I noticed you walking off while food was ready. I was just curious about where you were going and thought you might be hungry, so I brought you a plate of food, Izuku stated. I figured you don't like us that much, so I'll just leave it here and go back, Izuku said as he placed the plate on a flat boulder near him as he then walked off. After dinner, everyone was allowed to relax in the hot spring they had. Mineta stood at the wall that separated the boys from the girls, as he then tried climbing it with his quirk, but before he reached the top, Izuku shot a flame towards the ball on his head as his hair/ball were on fire. Mineta screamed while falling down in panic. Everyone else was just laughing. You deserved that, Ida said as Mineta landed on the ground. Suddenly 𝗂𝐬𝗧 appeared on top of the wall as he was surprised by the panic scream. Everything all right there, 𝗂𝐬𝗧? Mina asked as he then looked towards them and saw all of them naked while they only covered their melons. 𝗂𝐬𝗧 was surprised by this as he fell down at the boy's side. Izuku's eyes started glowing as he suddenly flew out of the water and caught 𝗂𝐬𝗧 just in time. He grabbed a towel around him and brought him to 𝗵𝗲𝗍. Sorry about 𝗂𝐬𝗧, he was just sitting there on wait since Aizawa told me your class has some uncontrollable perverts. 𝗵𝗲𝗍 laughed awkwardly. Yeah, Mineta can be a handful. Izuku scratched the back of his head. Still, you must be very fast to be able to catch him in time. 𝗵𝗲𝗍 smiled at him. She then looked at his scar. Say, 𝗵𝗲𝗍, 𝗂𝐬𝗧 doesn't really like us, does he? Izuku asked before 𝗵𝗲𝗍 could ask her question. Well, his parents died while fighting off a villain named Muscular. 𝗂𝐬𝗧 was left alone. He thinks it's the fault of being a hero that he lost his parents and that made him hate heroes. In fact, he doesn't like us all that much either, 𝗵𝗲𝗍 explained. Can I ask you a question? She then asked as 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗆 walked in with 3 cups of tea for all 3 of them. Sure, go ahead, Izuku stated as 𝗵𝗲𝗍 placed her hand on his scar. Where and how did you get this? I heard from Aizawa you already had quite an experience past you. Is this also what he meant? 𝗵𝗲𝗍 asked as 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗆 looked at the scar as well. Well, it's part of it at least. Our school was attacked. When I blocked the villain's attack, we noticed explosions around the town, Izuku stated. Oh, we know about that day. We also were fighting those Nomu creatures, 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗆 stated. Well, this scar isn't from a Nomu. I fought a flame user as well as the hero killer 𝗧𝗓. I won, but only after 𝗧𝗓 gave me this wound, Izuku stated. However, that didn't hurt nearly as much as what happened after it, Izuku stated as he looked towards the ground. What happened? 𝗵𝗲𝗍 asked as she noticed it still hurt Izuku. Bakugo noticed that the explosions happened around where I used to live. I quickly made my way there and everywhere I looked was rubble, Izuku explained. I called out for my mom and noticed rubble moving, Izuku added as 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗆 and 𝗵𝗲𝗍 looked hopeful. Bakugo and I removed the rubble. We found my mother, but, Izuku said as he gritted his teeth. But what? 𝗵𝗲𝗍 asked. She had lost both her legs as well as an arm, and she also had a hole in her stomach. She smiled at me as she was happy that I was alive after those words. She died, Izuku stated as both 𝗵𝗲𝗍 and 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗆 looked in shock. That's horrible, 𝗵𝗲𝗍 said. But after that, why do you still want to be a hero so bad? They heard as the saw 𝗂𝐬𝗧 with tears in his eyes as he probably heard the story. I always wanted to be a hero. Sure, I was desperate and depressed that I lost my mother, but that didn't make me give up. In fact, it fired me up more to become a hero, because I had another reason for becoming a hero now, Izuku stated with a smile. What reason? 𝗂𝐬𝗧 asked curiously. Saving others to make sure no one has to experience the same thing I did. If I save one person, then that person's family doesn't have to experience that sadness I did at that day. I know I can't save everyone, I learned that the hard way, but I'll try my best to save everyone I can, Izuku explained as 𝗂𝐲 looked at him in amazement. 𝗵𝗲𝗍 and 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗲 also smiled. They were amazed to hear this from Izuku, and they were happy that 𝗂𝐲 was amazed by what Izuku said. After that, Izuku left to go to the others. They all went to bed as they had an early morning the next day for training. Everyone was training their quirks. Todoroki was mostly training on how to use his quirks at the same time, while Bakugo was training to increase his destructive power. Kirishima was walking around like a punching bag for close combat users who had to train their muscles in a fight. Izuku, however, was training how to compress his fireball in a small form with greater power, as well as trying to maintain fire control over a wide area for a longer period of time. He already gained a lot of stamina for using his flames after the training at school, but the more Izuku used his flames, the stronger they would get, so no matter which training he did, his flames would get stronger anyway. In the meantime, Class 1B also appeared as they would be joining their practice from that day on. They tried to get their licenses as well, but sadly everyone failed thanks to the disadvantage from the sports festival. However, they were training to go for the retry in 2 months. The day passed quickly. Izuku sat on the roof as he watched the stars before going to sleep. Aizawa had noticed that Izuku was gone and thought he might be on the roof as he then found Izuku. "Can't sleep?" Aizawa asked. "Oh, hello, Aizawa." "No, I'm just thinking," Izuku answered. "About what?" Aizawa asked. Izuku was thinking on how to explain it when Aizawa got him back to Earth. "About Nejire's kiss, maybe?" he asked as he hadn't gotten a response. "Well, I've been thinking about that ever since it happened, but no, that's not it," Izuku stated with an awkward smile. "I've been having a bad feeling for over a week now. I can't shake this feeling like something will happen while being here," Izuku stated. "I see, so you're having it as well," Aizawa stated. "You have it too?" Izuku asked, surprised, as Aizawa nodded. "If something would happen, I want you to do the best you can. You're strong and have the best control of your quirk from all of UA, so I know you can do it," Aizawa stated as Izuku nodded. "Now, get some sleep, we'll be having a long day tomorrow," Aizawa stated as they both got up. Izuku then went to bed. The next morning was another early morning as everyone was training their butts off. "Well, you better all work hard because tonight we'll be having a spooky evening. One class will try to scare the other class," 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗵 said. "But how do we determine a winner?" someone from Class 1B asked. "Simple, the one who makes the others piss their pants the most wins," Tiger said with an evil grin. The training was done. Everyone had eaten as then Class 1B got into the forest while groups of 2 from Class 1A entered the forest. Suddenly Izuku smelled smoke. When he looked up he saw it as well. Suddenly 𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗵 began to float as she then suddenly shot towards the forest as she was then hit to the head by Magna. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are Magna and Spinner from the League of Villains Personal Vanguard's Action Squad," Spinner said. Izuku looked around and noticed 𝗂𝐲 not there as she then noticed the worried look on 𝗵𝗲𝗍's face. "Eraser had bring the kids back to the camp. We'll take those too. I'll contact Ragdoll to take care of the other students," 𝗵𝗲𝗍 explained as Aizawa then ran towards the camp followed by the remaining students. Azui, Uraraka, Bakugo, Todoroki, Shoji and Tokoyami had already entered the forest, so they were still there. Aizawa turned around and saw Izuku still standing there. "Aizawa, go on without me." "𝗵𝗲𝗍. I know where 𝗂𝐲 is. I'll get him back," Izuku stated as 𝗵𝗲𝗍 looked shocked towards him. Izuku then quickly used his flames and flew towards the cliff, but right as he got there he saw a big version of Bakugo standing in front of 𝗂𝐲. Izuku quickly threw a spear of fire as it blasted the man into the wall. "𝗂𝐲, are you alright?" Izuku asked as 𝗂𝐲 looked frightened. Izuku pulled 𝗂𝐲 on his back as suddenly the man got out of the wall. "Not bad, kid, but that won't be enough to defeat me," the man said. "He's the one that killed my parents," 𝗂𝐲 said from Izuku's back. Izuku looked with wide eyes. "Muscular," he then said. "Well, if even a runt like you knows my name, then I must be quite famous," Muscular stated with a smile as suddenly his body was covered in muscle-like veins. "Before I kill you kids, Do you happen to know a kid named 𝗵𝗃𝗲? He asked as Izuku's eyes widened but then just started to glow. Guess not? Prepare to die, kids. He shouted as he slammed at the place Izuku was standing, but Izuku had already disappeared. Suddenly Muscular felt attacks from all sides as Izuku was moving around at high speed. Eventually Izuku showed up in front of Muscular. Izuku placed flames in his hands as he then placed his left hand above his head, while placing his right down. Izuku then made a circle of fire as he then slammed with a hand covered in flames in the middle of the circle of fire in front of him. Burning tornado! Izuku shouted as tornado made of flames shot from the circle directly at Muscular as it then exploded, knocking him out. Izuku quickly flew back to camp as he brought Quota back to camp. Izuku then quickly made his way to Mandalay. Mandalay! Quota is safe. He's at the camp with Aizawa. I learned who they are after. They are after 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Izuku shouted as he broke Spinner's sword and kicked Magna away from Tiger. Alright, now you go back to camp too. Mandalay stated. I can't, I have to keep the others safe. Izuku said as he then ran towards the forest. Izuku already found Tokoyami and Shoji, who were hiding after hearing the message about a villain attack. Mandalay had then placed the message through to everyone through her quirk telepathy. Izuku, Tokoyami and Shoji quickly made their way to 𝗵𝗃𝗲 and Todoroki, who were protecting some other students from a villain who made blades from his teeth. Izuku quickly jumped towards it as he slammed a fireball right in the villain's face, breaking its teeth and knocked him unconscious. Izuku then explained how he had fought Muscular and learned how they were after 𝗵𝗃𝗲. I see. If that's the case, we have to get back to camp, Todoroki stated. I don't need protection. I can handle those DMN extras by myself. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 shouted. Sure now, come on, we're going towards the camp, Todoroki said as he walked behind 𝗵𝗃𝗲. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 was cursing a lot as Izuku walked up front, but Izuku just ignored it. Eventually he saw Azui pinned to a tree. They quickly ran through the bush and reached her. Izuku, quick! Uraraka is in trouble. She shouted as suddenly Toga took the needle out of Uraraka's leg as she then pushed Uraraka off of her. Toga then quickly ran away. Are you guys alright? Izuku asked. Thanks, but what are you guys doing here? Azui asked. I fought a villain and learned their target was 𝗵𝗃𝗲. I came looking for him when I found Shoji and Tokoyami. Afterwards we found 𝗵𝗃𝗲 and Todoroki and were on our way to bringing 𝗵𝗃𝗲 to the camp, Izuku explained. But to bring 𝗵𝗃𝗲 to the camp, doesn't he have to be with you for that? Azui asked as they then quickly turned around and noticed 𝗵𝗃𝗲 was gone. Vanguard Action Squad, we retrieved our target, time to pull back, they heard someone say as they then saw a masked figure into a tree. Who are you and what did you do to 𝗵𝗃𝗲? Izuku shouted as his eyes started glowing. I'm a member of the Vanguard Action Squad, you can call me Compress. Oh, but I don't have time for that right now, Compress said as he held a small ball between his fingers that held 𝗵𝗃𝗲. 𝗵𝗃𝗲! Everyone shouted. Goodbye then, Compress said as he jumped from tree to tree at incredible speed. I won't let you take him, Izuku shouted as he flew up with his flames and shot after Compress. Uraraka, Azui, Shoji, Todoroki and Tokoyami quickly ran after them. Meanwhile Toga, Dabi and Twice were waiting at an open spot. So Toga, how much BLD did you end up getting? Twice asked. Just 1 cup from one person, she said proudly. What? Didn't why you need at least 3 different people? Twice shouted. Well, there were a lot of people, I didn't want to die, you know, she pouted. Give him back. They heard as suddenly something slammed into the ground, creating a smoke screen. Once the smoke disappeared, they saw Compress pinned to the ground with Izuku on his back while arms and legs covered in flames. Compress, move away, Dabi said as he suddenly shot blue flames at Izuku, blowing him away. Izuku was too concentrated on Compress that he didn't notice the flames coming towards him, so he took the hit full on. Compress then undid his quirk on himself as he walked beside Dabi. Did you get him? Dabi asked. Of course I did, Compress said as he showed the small ball as then Kurogiri showed up, who created portals. Suddenly from behind Izuku, a Nomu with weapons all around his body showed up as it jumped into a portal. The same went for Twice and Toga. Give 𝗵𝗃𝗲 back. Izuku shouted again as 𝗕𝗵𝗍 and 𝗵𝗵𝗃 walked towards the portal. Alright, undo your quirk, 𝗕𝗵𝗍 said as 𝗵𝗵𝗃 undid his quirk and Bakugo appeared again. 𝗕𝗵𝗍 grabbed his neck with a grin as they slowly disappeared. Azui, Uraraka, Shoji, Tokoyami and Todoroki showed up together with Aizawa and Mandalay with Tiger. They saw Bakugo slowly disappearing. I won't let villains take someone else from me. Izuku shouted as he charged his flames in his feet as the flames shot up to his chest. Izuku then charged at the portal as he went through it just before it disappeared. Izuku! Everyone shouted as they saw Izuku charging after Bakugo. Meanwhile at the villains, Bakugo figured Izuku would come after him, so once he got through he used a big explosion to blow Izuku back before they noticed him. Izuku got launched quite a bit back because of it, but it worked. The villains hadn't noticed Izuku but did place quirk restraining HNDCFFS on him. They then took him to their base and tied him to a chair. Izuku silently followed them and had even made his way into the base without being noticed. I just have to wait for the right moment, then I can escape with Bakugo, Izuku thought. I won't let them take anyone else dear to me.